going to go up because you're utilizing electricity, but ours has stayed pretty steady. We keep it at, I would like to keep it much colder than it is, but we keep it at 67, I think.
Yeah. Does a good job too.
It sure does. Of course, we only have one unit, so the upstairs is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine trying to sleep upstairs in my house.
We had to put in a box air conditioner.
Yeah, that's what I've got. If I'm working overnight, I have to have it there. You know, if it puts it up an extra $20, it's worth it. You know what I mean? Just so you don't roast.
Well, especially, like, for me, I'm working from home now. So today, I tried really hard not to run it. And then finally, at about 3 o'clock, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Sun was on that side of the house.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Who hasn't signed these? Anybody?
I haven't seen
I have 636.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to replace the clock. It's
I'm figuring
been
it
taken
out.
down 4 times now and it's losing.
Which is fine.
Is that a new one?
You know when you're going to notice it.
Pardon?
Is that a warranty bill?
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I've never run the heat
Is
yet.
it one that I signed?
Oh my god,
I
actually,
think
what
you
we
found
had
out
to
from,
do,
but let me check.
we had to
this.
put another sensor up for our
Did,
furnace.
what number is it? Did
Because
you
it's
send
so
it to me
efficient,
electronically?
even upstairs, and the
62?
regular pipes would freeze downstairs.
Yeah, I don't have those.
It was a process to run.
Yeah.
So we had to put another sensor that will force the furnace to kick
Yeah, these
on
are two new ones.
when it starts to drop
Will you
downstairs
send me the
below a
little
certain.
circle? Okay.
Because that night, see, what I do is I burn wood, then I've got propane.
Yeah, I burn
Yeah.
propane and wood.
Whichever way you go.
What I do is,
Give me the book and I'll
no,
sign
at
it
nighttime,
tonight,
everybody's
and
dead. I mean, except that, you know,
And
except
send me the
that
report.
I mean, you know, nobody's up.
That way I can.
So if
Ours
the
is
furnace
like-
comes on in the middle of the night, comes on in the middle of the night, 3 or 4, I told the wife, I said, look, you're 62 years old.
No, I have pink.
2 or 3 times a night you fill that
A
stuff.
simple as
If you
that.
haven't got one bathroom, you can walk the
I
if not,
don't know what you would do
You
either.
know, we'll go back up in the morning. But when we're up in the morning, that thing's moving.
That's right.
Because that's, I mean, it's a pain in the butt, but you can't beat it.
Today's date.
It's
No,
okay.
you can't.
It's okay.
It's cheap.
I got a wood stove in the basement and I run my heat pump year round for my hot water heater
Yeah.
because I have heat in the basement.
And I bet that's cheap too.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference, especially in summer.
Yeah,
Like $20 a month, I think.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
And you have propane as well?
I do, I have a propane stove in addition.
I thought, wow, you had
It only
that.
does heat.
No, Tim just handed it
And
to
I
me.
use that when it gets really cold.
Okay, counselors, maybe Matt will be joining us shortly. Welcome to the first budget workshop for the 2021 budget calendar. Today is August 11th, 2020. This is a town council budget workshop for preliminary discussions, including comprehensive plan review. Why don't we start with a pledge of allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. We don't have a formal agenda this evening, but the purpose of the workshop was to review the comprehensive plan and discuss some priorities for the coming budget. I don't know if we want to approach this just by going through the plan by section to see if counselors want to have discussions based on what's in there, or if people have hot topics that they want to start with and just throw out items that they want to start talking about.
Is anybody on Zoom?
We do have it on Zoom, yes.
Is there anybody in there?
There's nobody in there.
Nobody on there?
Not yet. I did send it out over Facebook. Do you want to look at the mission statement and vision first and then go to the implementation strategies? The mission statement is on page 2. And the vision sort of goes on for revisit.
I think, I've been through this extensively. I think we need to separate out, because the vision and the mission is from page 2 to 4, it's like all over the place.
Should be this one.
And so I think you should try and figure out what the vision is, which is
Thank you.
what we're gonna move forward, and from that you derive your mission.
So it has a very lengthy mission statement.
Were you able to put one together?
I really don't think that there's an issue with our mission statement. I mean, the idea that we want to provide a safe, healthy, attractive, affordable community to live in, learn, worship, raise children, work and play. I mean, that's.
I don't have a problem with it either, but that's all we heard about last year was how we don't have a mission, we don't have a vision. I kept saying it's in the comprehensive plan,
Well,
but people weren't listening, so.
I think the issue is less that we don't have one and more that it's not advertised well enough.
So we have it on the town website, we had signs around town, we have postings, but we do not give out a copy of it each year to all the
They
board
can read it
committees.
online.
Yeah. So maybe a
So it
copy.
was properly advertised. It's
Well-
just a matter of people, well,
No, the issue is.
that's my opinion, and I would appreciate if you did not,
Deb,
talk
all I
down
would
to
say
me
is that
and me.
website is really hard to follow. So while it was online, I agree, I've seen it there. It is not easy to find. It is,
Then they
especially
can make it easier to
on mobile
find,
devices.
but it's
That's what I
been
meant by
available
not
for,
advertised well.
since 2013, so 7 years has gone by.
So Deborah, you don't have any issue with the content of it, it's just the way
That's
it's organized
correct.
and presented?
Correct.
Okay, so we're not gonna make changes to the comprehensive plan?
Correct.
This is
No,
what
this
we-
is just,
That's one area you're
I'd
talking
like to
about.
see us clarify the vision and the mission.
Okay,
So, and not necessarily done tonight, but I think we should all look at it, like I said, from page 1 to 4, or 2 to 4. I don't know, there's so much of it. 2 to 4
I think
pretty
that-
much puts together the mission and the vision, but it's kind of, for me, it's a little all over the place. I
Well-
think we could
Condense it?
come up with something,
the mission as it's stated is that single line.
that single line.
The
That's
single
good.
line is your mission, and everything that follows is found within the framework of the book afterwards. So this is kind of like your introduction in a book where it's telling you what the book's
Right.
gonna be about type thing. So, I definitely think that people weren't complaining so much as the fact that there isn't something in writing. It's the fact that it's not being implemented in a way that's very overt to people. So it's not like the council has picked out a particular item and said, we are going to focus on this and this for year 2021 or 2020. I think that is more like what people would be looking for, is to focus on, there's a lot here, and the importance of it can kind of get lost in the volume that's here and the volume of information on our website. And so it's narrowing down on what we think maybe the 3 most important things that we need to focus on this year would be. You know, there's some things in here, like the school system, that is handled kind of separately. There's things that we can do to support the school system, but we, as a town, don't run the school system. It's run by the SAB 53. So I think we can take that portion out, and that's kind of handled by another entity. So
Well,
that's
I
not our
didn't-
department.
I didn't think that we would actually do that. I wanted to put that out there, but, so that we could all look at it and maybe figure out a way to make it a little more concise. My real concern is we have general recommendations.
So
The going forward implementation,
Yeah,
on page 4.
to simplify this, the mission statement's very good. They spent almost a whole day going over that and focus groups and the exercises and everything. It's just, it's sort of meshed in with all this discussion on vision, which goes on with, nice sentences, but there's so much. It's not separated out well, but it's written well. So if we were to keep on with our mission statement, which we have posted and give out to the employees, but we don't give out to the board and committee members, and maybe give that out to them each year until it's changed. But right now, since we're talking about the comp plan and the budget, maybe go to the implementation strategies at the end and go, figure
The
out.
general recommendations on page
General
121.
recommendations, yes, and see what you want to do, which ones do you like, which ones do you want to work on.
Well, I did have a question because the going forward implementation part on page 4 says the planning board will dedicate 1 meeting a year to the review of the process on the implementation of this plan. Does that happen?
No.
It used to take place, and then when money became tight and the members changed on the planning board, they didn't do that anymore, even though we did.
So I think really we can address a lot of the issues by reinstating number 1 and number 2 on page 4. I mean, I don't see how, we need a new
We sent
comprehensive
a
plan.
letter, Catherine did a letter that, over our names, that we all looked at, to the planning board, asking, or letting them know that it's our recommendation. They meet twice a month, and there still has been no response
They
to
just
that
had
letter.
a meeting last night.
Until last night.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
Last night was the first meeting and they had it on the agenda and discussed it.
And did they discuss it?
Yes.
They did, yes. They're gonna
And
put it
was
on.
there an outcome?
An outcome that they agreed after discussions that they would work on the 2 projects and needed to get some education on what needs to be in a subdivision and not be in a subdivision, because there was the idea that the subdivision ordinance was carried down from the state and we had to have that language, but that's the shoreline zoning ordinance that happens under, which you have to accept it just as it is. Subdivision ordinance, you can add items in. There are certain statutory requirements you have to handle, but all the other items that are in there are ones that we accepted. So they're going to do some research, and I'll help with that. And then on the zoning in the areas around the industrial park, they did agree to look at the properties and go through an exercise. So they have more of a discussion on their next special meeting, because they were going to have 2 meetings this month. That meeting will be on August 24th, in which they will handle 3 development projects if everybody brings their items in on time. And then if there's time, they'll go over these 2 projects that the council requested that they look at. So this is progress.
The only thing I see about the mission statement is, it all depends on who you ask. It's open to interpretation. It's like everything else. Like the school system would be the central focus of community life. Well, it is. MCI, football, all that. It all depends on who you ask. That's like everything else. I do think it's good to focus on what we can do for going forward to see how this is implemented. That makes perfect sense. Like you said on page 4, like the planning board dedicating 1 meeting, that's one thing you can do. And the checklist forwarded to the town manager, that's something you can do. But that mission statement itself, it's long, it's lengthy, but it all depends on who you ask. Some people think we live in a wonderful community and some people don't like it. It just depends on the person. So that's kind of broad. I like Deb said, that's broad. I don't know how you nail that down any further.
Well,
it's just,
I think it's just a matter of some rewording, that's all.
So the mission statement is probably going to have to stay that way. But if you wanted to do other items like break down your vision, you could do that if you wanted to.
Right.
Because that's not specifically
The
in
vision,
here.
right, the vision would be what we want to see in the future.
Yeah, like for your signs that we have up on the mission statement around, and give out to the employees and everything. we could redesign that if you wanted to, or put a vision on there instead of just mission statement. I mean, we can do items like that, we can make banners, we can do
I
all
was
kinds
gonna
of
say, we
things.
could put a banner up that says our mission statement right there behind that.
We can make it-
Absolutely.
Yep, we can do items like that.
And it's there all the time.
Mhm. Some
Thank-
towns will put the mission statement on their agenda. I mean, there's different things you can
Well,
do.
we can't print that whole thing on the agenda.
Well, no, just that statement,
Just
the
that
bolded
statement.
mission
Right, right.
statement.
The one sentence, yeah.
And-
The other thing that we could do is, if we're talking about how to break this down into, we need to break this down into smaller bite-sized pieces, because we can't accomplish all of this at once. And so
Yeah.
if we looked at this and said, you know, a safe, healthy, attractive, affordable community in which to live, learn, worship, raise children, work, and play, if we take that and break it down, it's a safe, healthy, attractive, and affordable community is what our goal is. And what the following is what people are actually doing when you have a safe place, when it's a healthy place, attractable and affordable. All of the other things will follow. And so I think we should look and focus on how can we make our town safe. Things like fixing our sidewalks, getting our crosswalks painted in a timely manner, making sure the lights are working on Main Street. Those are concrete, fixing the roads and the potholes. Those are all concrete things that the council can work towards to increase the safety of our community, the healthiness of our community. We've partnered with MCI on cleanup days, and we've worked with SVH on different projects and things, increasing those types. Our police departments work with SVH and all the commissions and things like that to drug awareness and things like that. Those are all things that we can directly do in order to help further the mission of the town. Attractive and affordable community. You know, our code things that we're working on as far as cleaning up unsightly properties in town. What are some things that we can do to make it easier for people to have affordable housing in town? We're talking about changing some of the planning board rules and things like that so that people can build more affordable houses in town with subdivisions and things like that. So I think some of the things that we're already starting to work on fall within trying to do these items, but it's where do we want to go from here? It's going to take a while for the planning board to work through the subdivision.
Well, then,
At the risk of sounding like Captain Obvious here, I'd like to see something put in there that this is an ongoing process, because sometimes people read something like that and they think, well, why is this happening? You know, it's got the, you know, it's a constant, ongoing process working towards this one stated goals. I mean, I think that should be in there somewhere under your, you know, when you develop a list that says this is the direction we want to go in, it should be put in there that it's an ongoing daily process that the town is working towards. Because if you don't, you're going to get people cherry picking it and saying, well, why isn't this one? And then we can just point it back, look, this is an ongoing thing. It is common sense that you should know, but you know what I mean? People come in and they're focused on 2 or 3 issues because they don't know. They don't sit in here every day. So that way, it's self-explanatory if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we do work on the recommendations that are at the end of the comprehensive plan, which enforces and implements the mission statement. But in our workings on those, we haven't over the past just chosen some to concentrate on. We've worked on them when we get money, like grants and everything.
Yeah. Deborah, would you like to say?
oh, and just wanted to say to Tim that it did say that. It's
Did it?
further-
I missed it, I guess.
No, it's in where the general recommendations are. At the page 121 where they start, they list a policy,
I
a
think
strategy.
he wants to have it near the mission statement, not buried in the document.
We could put it underneath if it's an ongoing, this is an ongoing process for the town that we're working daily to strive to the following goals. However you guys want to describe it, as long as it's in there.
So we would have to put it on our handouts because the comprehensive plan, any changes,
We have to go
no
through
matter
a
how small,
process.
have to go back to the state of Maine.
Right.
So you would just put it on your mission
Okay.
and vision statement.
Okay.
Well, it's
just-
something that could be added
Not to
when
this.
we go through the next round of
Yes.
the comprehensive plan
Yeah.
though, because don't we have to do it by law every 12 years? But we said we would do it every 10?
It says every 10 years, however, the state has enforced it, I mean, frankly, because of the lack of staff and at the state level and the fact that there's no money, that money's not available as it was supposed to be. As long as you do it once every 15 or 18 years, they've been fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we want to skip ahead to 121 and start looking at the recommendations?
I mean, I have been through this extensively because I've had the time. I think we're beyond the section where it says implementation. We're in the part where we have to look at the recommendations and the strategies and how to implement.
Yeah.
And if we do that, I think we'll find things that we will want to address when we're doing the budget in those recommendations.
Right, yeah, and that's, the discussion of the comprehensive plan flows into the budget items that
Right.
we'd like to look at, yeah, this is true. So that's page 121.
Great,
120.
the general recommendations.
We're all calling it something different, but it's the same.
Okay, I was confused there for a moment. Do we want to focus on the ones that just have town council as the implementer or responsible for implementation?
Well, it can't really affect too much of the stuff that has nothing to do with us. I mean, the planning board, we could look over their stuff because we want to encourage them
Mhm.
to work on that, but the historical society, we don't really have a lot of say in what they do. So if they're at I mean, we have the recreation committee, we want to encourage them to do their stuff. So it's
Deborah?
worth looking at it.
I went through it and I looked at it at different pieces based on the budget. So for example, on page 127, it talks about housing. And even, I believe it mentions tiny housing, tiny houses, or maybe that's earlier. But starts on page 127 and goes to the next page, maybe the next 2 or 3 pages.
Housing's a good one to talk about.
Okay.
But there are things in here that I think that we can do. Or maybe we can ask the town manager if they have been done, because sometimes, like she said, something might have been done at the time because we needed it, and she wrote a grant or whatever. Training, I can't remember what I wrote on that.
Are you still on
Policy
the
7
housing?
and policy 8 I looked at also. Page 124.
Wait a minute, you're all over the place here. Are we gonna talk about housing or?
I'm just mentioning the topics that I thought we could talk about
Do you want to have a
with
discussion?
relation to the budget.
Okay, do you want to have a discussion, starting with that first one?
Sure.
Okay. I'm just looking for like a.
So which
a
one are we
focus-
starting with?
Huh?
Which one are we starting with?
Housing.
Housing
Housing on
on
page 127.
Okay.
Because I think it's really important. We have a housing crisis here. We, as Mayor Donahue has mentioned in the last 2 meetings, we have this big company that has come in and they're not going to be living in town because we don't have any new developments. So
looking at the policies here, the first policy under housing is ensuring that housing, number 15 on
Yeah.
page 127, is ensuring that housing in Pittsfield is available and affordable for the existing and projected workforce. So we have an idea of how many new jobs are coming into town just based on Puritan. establishing a factory here. And it says at least 10% of the new housing units would be available, affordable, excuse me. So the planning board is gonna be dealing with that. I would say that falls under the subdivision and the zoning ordinances that we've already asked them to do. So that's
Which, right.
in progress.
Right. But,
So if we just go one by one, there's only 4 here under housing, then we can kind of focus on those one at a time. Number 16 on page 128, plan for shifting demographic demands for housing.
a lot of this has to do with zoning and whatnot, and that's the reason, I just thought that we could start, the town has to start coming up with money for, oh my God, I can't even think of it, CIP.
Yeah,
Improvement
capital.
plan,
Capital
sorry.
improvement.
I had a brain freeze right there. And housing is one of those places that when the planning board gets to looking at the zoning issues, we should have some money set aside to work on some of the affordable housing and the tiny housing. I agree with you about the tiny housing. I think it's great for single people. It is a wave coming across the country. And I think it's really important that we include that. And I'm not sure how we could go about making it affordable, but
The one thing that Pittsfield has going against it as far as affordable housing is the fact that we have to follow MUBEC building code. And many of the towns around us do not have that requirement because of the size of the town. So it is just by design and the fact that we have to follow that building code, it's more expensive to build a home here in Pittsfield, even if it's a smaller home. It's more expensive to build it here than it is to build it in surrounding towns like Detroit or Canaan or Burnham. So what we need to do is be able to offer other things that make it worthwhile for people to be able to spend or be willing to spend a little bit more to put that same house here in town. There needs to be other things that we have, services that we have, or places that we have, or the ambiance of the town that draws them here over just that one fact of their house might cost a little bit more.
I was looking at 16-2, work with Sebastopol Valley Hospital to determine a plan for senior assisted housing within the community or region. When the planning board looks at zoning and things like that, I don't know much about senior housing, to be quite honest with you. I know we have a couple senior/assisted housing around. However, if Sebastopol Hospital, I think when that was put in, they were thinking about maybe building on, or wasn't there an area down there that they were looking at that time?
Yes, at that time, but
They
that,
closed theirs.
yeah, due to all the need for specialty and other things that had gone beside the wayside, but that doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't look at it.
Is that something that we should make a recommendation that when, I mean, this is gonna take some time, but when this all comes down the pike here, little pieces at a time, like putting a puzzle together here, is that something we should look at and get Sebastopol Hospital along with maybe the planning board and us to see if there's some viable place for, I don't know if there's even an interest in it anymore because it's
It's
so
not
bad.
really a hospital item because they have so many different areas that they focus on.
Yeah.
But when the planning board looks at the housing, they could look also at the senior and assisted housing and make sure where that can go in the town and how can it be easier to bring it in. That would be really good, which then a developer may, become interested.
So therefore, so Sebastopol Valley Hospital, we could not, I don't know if we should strike that or not, but,
I think they could provide some assistance in what
Services.
types of functionality senior housing should have built in within it. They could provide some guidelines to builders that the planning board can then, have at hand, that if people are saying, oh, we're gonna provide senior housing, the planning board can look at those plans and say, okay, well, do you have plans for handrails? You know, is it all for 1 story? Does it have, you know, clear walkways? Is it level surfaces? You know, limit the number of steps in the building, all those kinds of things that you have to think about when you're thinking about seniors and people with limited mobility. And just be able to have them as a guidance to developing those policies. Because I think that one of the things that can be more welcoming to getting builders to work in town is having the planning board be more well-versed and willing to work with people and provide guidance to get through that process of getting to the point where there is a viable development. You know, and as far as the tiny houses, you know, there's a lot of different layouts for senior housing or assisted housing, and sometimes it's just like a single drive with a loop, and there's small houses all around for seniors, and then there's a community building for them to come and to meet and to sit in. Usually they have 2 to 3 rooms with a kitchen and a bathroom, with a living room and a bedroom. You know, and so they're pretty small units, probably not even the size of this room, but it's the space that they need and a single level floor for them to be able to easily get around, and it's designed in a way that there's minimal doorways and all those kinds of things. So that's where the building planning board can provide some support to builders, is if they're looking at that type of development.
So that kind of development, you know, of course, back in 2013, when this was written out, you know, you didn't hear too much about tiny houses back then. But I like the concept. I think that's just exactly what some of these people in their 70s and 80s are looking for. They want to get this big monstrosity house they can't live in anymore.
Yeah.
And
It's not even just seniors.
No, it's not
people over
just seniors.
55 even.
Yeah.
They have gated communities for people in mobile homes and things like that. I mean, that's definitely, to me, if you've got a piece of land that a developer wants to develop and put tiny houses on and sell pieces of it, however they want to do it, I think that's a niche market that could very well happen down the road. We just got to find the right place to put it. And the fact that if it's built by standards, I know our standards are a little higher, so it puts the cost up a little bit, but then again, they won't have to be on a fixed income trying to fix it. You know what I mean? Because it will be done right the first time. It'll last the rest of their lives. So.
And a lot of it has to do with energy efficiency requirements. So it does lower the cost of living in the building once it's built as well.
So I could see what you're saying, where that would fit, where the hospital could fit in with that, provide that.
Why don't I compile a list of resources in the state that would be available to the planning board and others who might be interested.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Catherine.
That would be great.
That would.
All right, thank you.
The only reason I wanted to talk about housing is just to reiterate to everybody, including the planning board, how important it is that we get our act together with the zoning. They've been asked and they've been asked and they've been asked, and they were asked again with a letter. If they're not going to work on the projects, then we need to replace who's on the boards with new people. Because we definitely are behind the time with implementing some stuff here.
Having sat on peak, I can tell you that, well, Gary, as you well know, and that there's a two-pronged approach here. There's affordable housing for seniors and tiny homes. Then there's also the first-time home buyers that are coming in.
Exactly.
And if it's, you know, most of your banks for first-time home buyers are looking at a house between, 120 to 175. Anything above that, you start having difficulty, obtaining financing. Not everybody, but you know, as a rule. And right now, that type of home is in short supply around. And, just this Puritan building is not the only place that's going to come in here. We're going to have some other jobs come in as well. I guarantee you, within a year and a half, you're going to see some more. Probably, I would say, Catherine, probably fairly substantial down the road.
There's a lot of activity going on.
Yeah, so,
And Puritan's not at full capacity.
no, it's not.
Correct.
And it's going to be, they're going to be crowded for, and I'm like you, I hate to see them live in Waterville.
Well, that's
or,
just it.
someplace like that. if we got places, so that would be,
Housing would drive, if we work on the zoning and start developing the new housing, whatever that may be, leads into community development. As far as, we don't have the theater, but we have all kinds of outdoor activities and recreation department. We could work on getting the arts in here somehow. Those are the kinds of things that attract people to live in in your community.
Right.
So
let's, side table that for a second, and let's finish up with this housing piece here. There's, a couple, most of these things fall underneath either the town office, which has grant funding for local homeowners, and those types of programs would come through the town office, I would guess, right, Catherine?
They
As far as
would,
pushing them in the right direction?
Yes, however, we're not eligible for a lot of the community development block grant programs, one of which is the one in which you loan out or grant out the money to the homeowners to upgrade their facilities. We do have some funding left over from a federal grant, but it requires extensive steps on the part of the person, and frankly, it's easier for them to go to the bank to get the
Okay.
money.
As far as energy efficiency, there's a lot of, the 17.1 is what I'm looking at here, and what she's talking about with the loan fund. There's a lot of programs in the state, or at least there were a few years ago, I'm not sure about their funding now. But Efficiency Maine could do efficiency surveys of people's homes to help them figure out changes that they can make. Sometimes it's very easy changes, like putting plastic over their windows, banking the house, things like that, to help them become more energy efficient. So and I know the town office has information about that. So you're more of an information broker in that instance.
We probably have too much information.
And then maintaining an adequate building inspector budget and enforcing the state building code, that falls under the CEO. It's an ongoing thing, and the town council is listed in there because of the budget portion that Deborah was referencing to earlier. And I think we have increased that budget somewhat in the last year or so because of the legal fees that we approved for them to have in order to have some enforcement for that. So I would almost check that off as something that we've moving in the right direction as far as being able to do that. And that I would really say that that's been held up mostly because of COVID and the fact that the courts have been closed. Otherwise, I think we would have seen some movement on a couple of these cases already if that hadn't been the case this year. Maintaining and enforcing current home occupation standards, that's the CEO. Enlisting the aid of community service organizations to address nuisance and unkept yards. That's actually has changed because there was an ordinance passed a few years ago, a junkyard ordinance. So that is under the CEO, and that's already been addressed. But I also think that that would be kind of with MCI and their service days. You know, those service days can be targeted to certain properties that if people don't have the wherewithal or the physical ability to clean up their own properties, then, you know, that's where I would see the community service organizations playing a part in that. So.
And they actually have for a number of people.
Yeah, for leaf raking and cleaning things up and
Catherine,
stuff.
do we, for 17.1, do we have a resources page for like links on our website? For links to like Efficiency Maine and?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is it a tab across the top?
It's one of the tabs across the top. Now remember, a lot of these items were taken off the website because it was thought it was too busy. So I would have to go look for that. We've had a lot of complaints from people. And so I have the staff going through there and putting some items back on to be more helpful.
Even if it's just a link to a PDF that isn't shown on the website, at least there's a list of like, here are housing resources, here are.
Yeah, we
like
had
the
all
state
those.
does with the laws.
It was busy, but it was all there.
Is it maybe, I mean, because we're paying closer attention to these things, that maybe it's time to maybe redesign a little bit the website?
We are in the process of sort of adding some of the items back in that were taken off because people have called up and asked for them.
Right.
So
But I mean, as far as maybe redesigning it so that it's not as, I mean, I use computers all the time, but
It's cluttered.
it's, yeah.
It's very clunky and it's hard to find information.
Yeah, it
And
is.
there's
And so
a lot of-
maybe,
not
maybe we need
mobile-friendly.
more
Yeah,
pages.
it's not user friendly at all.
Mm-hmm.
We did talk about that a few years ago, our communications committee looked into that, we made some recommendations about making some changes and cleaning it up.
Right.
And there's been a lot of progress made on that, there's certainly more progress to make on the
Yeah.
website. There's a lot of older information that's still on there that probably doesn't need to be there, but there needs to be an organized way of like archiving that. So it's still there, if somebody really wants to know about the brownfields, something or other from 2004
Right.
or something, but, you know.
Yeah,
it
you
doesn't
can have an
to be-
archive page.
Yeah, it really needs to be archived.
Yeah,
So-
a lot of items were taken off, so we're in the process of updating and bringing some of the
And
items
putting
back.
stuff-
But the new format is hard for the citizens, it might be easier for those from out of town, but the citizens keep asking, they like the old setup better. So maybe some combination of setups. But we're looking at it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
I think I remember you mentioning something, I don't know if it was last budget season or when they were talking about communication stuff. The website and the costs that went along with changing to a different platform. Because I really think the biggest issue is that platform is not usually user-friendly on the back end either. I've looked at some of that code and it's,
Oh, we don't have to use code.
well, no, I know, but
It's a
me
very
from being interested in what the code was, I mean, you're pretty restricted in what you're allowed to do, the size of your images, the.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only
Things like
item
that.
that doesn't work well for the website, it's so user-friendly, it's ridiculous, except for pictures. Pictures are very clunky and hard to use. You can put them in one location, but they'll move to another one. So, in terms of the wording and setting up the different sections and moving things around, that works out really good. So let me work on that a little bit more. I have one of two staff members working on that. And archiving like the long lists of the information into their own little sections, so you just click on that, and then you get all the information in there. So they're putting it into subsections, basically.
That's what I was thinking with the resources page, like if you had a section that's housing.
are we
And then
at
everything
a
for
point
housing.
maybe where we have a budget item and we hire someone to redo the website?
It's very expensive.
Very.
Like $10,000 to $20,000 for a
I
website the size that the town would need.
Very
And the amount of work and
Ours is a large
reformatting that would need to be
website.
done. So,
Um,
there you go. That's what all of this comes down to is
Yeah.
that we have all these wonderful ideas
Yes.
and wouldn't it be great if we
Oh,
didn't have to
yeah.
actually pay for them? But it comes down to, you know, yeah, our
If-
website needs help, but a new website is really expensive.
Mhm.
So,
Little different subject, I was looking under this preserve residential neighborhoods again. I'm noticing a lot of your, it says, you know, listed community service organizations to address issues of nuisance or unkept yards. You've also got a group of people that are getting older, they're like in their 70s and 80s, and sometimes they're just not physically able to do it, to get out there and do the stuff they want to, but they can't. Now, that's not everybody, of course, you got the junky yards that people just, they're hoarders and all that stuff, but some of these, if that's done correctly and it's done, I mean, that's nothing that we're gonna solve tonight, but it's really too bad because some of the people that lived here for years, as long as it's done correctly, I'd like to see, you know, like you said, the community service organizations handle that too, because just a simple hand, you know, sometimes you can't get out and, cover their windows, or they can't get out and mow their lawn or something because they just can't walk well enough to do the whole thing, and they don't have relatives living around here. And I'd like to see, and I know that that's a personal thing, and you don't want, if you're 80 years old, you don't want a whole bunch of people you don't know on your property and all that stuff, but I'd like to see something, some kind of a list where at least somebody could check in with them and say, okay, is there anything we can do to help you? We're willing to help you if you're willing to have us Now, if they don't, they don't, but at least it's there as a community service.
Sounds
That
like
makes
a
sense.
great project for like a Boy Scout troop or
Yeah,
something like
we
that.
did, we did do that a
Or
number of
even-
years ago, but due to liability and the less members on different groups, the groups didn't go out as much to help out, so that's how the community service days became so important. And they had, you know, many lists of items for MCI students to do.
There's some real limitation on what they can do, like, we had, a girl, she was 14, she worked on the farm one summer, she couldn't run a lawnmower,
Yeah.
a push lawnmower, she could not operate anything with a motor or anything, so she spent a lot of time weeding the garden, because that was like the only thing I could have her do that didn't involve sharp tools,
Yeah.
or
Stay
mowing
lawn.
the grass, or
That's sad.
anything like that.
My son
Yeah.
works up at the research center, he's not allowed to press start on the 3D printer because
Yeah.
it has a motor.
Yeah.
It's the same rule.
It's
So we have a
really-
lot of
Sad.
things you have
It's
to be
really
careful with.
restrictive, so a lot of the community service days are raking
They're limited.
leaves,
Right.
painting,
Yes,
you
yes.
know, picking up sticks, cleaning up the yards, but they can't mow grass, and, you know, so there's some limitations there. But that being said, you know, all MCI students have a community service, requirement that they have to fulfill in their time at the school, so maybe there's an opportunity to work with MCI and have the school become kind of like the clearinghouse for those types of projects, that seniors can contact the school if there's a person there, they can contact the school and say, I need help, you know, fixing the gate on the hinges on my front gate, or something like that.
That'd be awful nice, because our population's getting older all the time.
Population.
We're getting more elderly people now than we had 20 years ago.
Because our zoning is so restrictive
No.
that
Well, it's not even
younger
just-
people are not moving here.
Right.
It's
Well,
not even
that's-
just the zoning, the other things that people are looking at. This is what I'm hearing from people, why they're buying in Palmyra instead of Pittsfield or Burnham to keep in this school district, but not Pittsfield. Our taxes are not
Yes,
low.
that is exactly
The
it.
tax-
And that
Taxes are an issue.
that's the other thing, when we're looking at this budget, if we really want to encourage people to move in, we have to do our best not to make that increase a lot.
But the other thing, the flip side of that is like Burnham and Detroit have lower tax rates,
Mhm.
but there are no services in those towns. There are no downtowns with shops.
Correct.
There are no sidewalks to maintain, you know, it's very, very, they are
Basic.
more rural and country towns than we are even. And so that's the difference, and
I
that's
agree.
not what people always see, but that's what
Correct.
some of their tax dollars is paying for, is the infrastructure that we need to keep up.
Absolutely.
In order to have that
Bingo.
services.
But the problem is when
nail
they're
right on
looking
that.
at it, and this is, again, this is just what I'm hearing from people who are moving to this area because of Puritan or because of MCI.
And the
They're looking at Pittsfield and the bill that they'd have to pay on taxes, and they're looking at Burnham, and they're like, well, I'm gonna be in Pittsfield every day for school
Whenever.
anyway, why pay the extra taxes? So, I'm not saying that we can get rid of our tax base, we
Oh, yeah.
can't. We have a lot of infrastructure we have to keep up with that Burnham and Detroit don't have. But we want to be cognizant of that when we're looking at our budget for next year.
The SAB 53 is the
think-
same way.
I
mean,
think that
Yeah.
last year, the council was very cognizant of the load that taxpayers had. Unfortunately, the issue is that for many, many years, the councils have told Catherine to keep the operating budget to an absolute minimum, which meant not putting any money away for rainy days. And so we got far behind trying to do projects because we didn't have the money. Now, we have no choice, we have to do the projects, and we're borrowing money for paving that's it, we can't borrow any more than that. So, people need to understand that the services they're getting, the list of services, not everything is covered by taxes, and I think we need to get that message out to people. We're at the point where, like with the stickers for the transfer station, I think, and the fees at the pool, these are the two first, steps
User fees.
of implementing user fees, because taxes do not cover everything, and you're right, people don't realize that. So-
And they don't realize that it's gonna go away if,
But when you
you know
tell
what I mean?
them,
Eventually,
when
if
you
you don't
tell
take
them
care
they
of it.
can't, we don't have a transfer station anymore, then people, you know what I mean?
That's a conversation that's been brought up before.
Exactly, but-
I wanna circle back around to
Yep.
this housing piece. Is there anything else that, Pete, did you wanna add anything to the housing discussion?
Oh, I had one more question. It's not in here, but I assume it falls under the shifting demographic demands, but when we're talking about the zoning ordinance and stuff with the tiny houses, I remember there being conversations about having plans that were already done by a PE
Yep.
that would allow citizens to come in and pick out pre-designed plans and not have to, this is part of the affordability as well.
Right.
Not have to pay thousands of dollars to have a PE design the house, that we would have some at a nominal fee
Right.
for them to obtain. Is that still part of the plan, Catherine, for the planning board to look at?
I think the planning board needs to focus on that a little bit more. They talked about it at one meeting and then, it didn't go any further.
Because I think when we're looking at zoning and subdivisions and
Yeah.
stuff, that should be part of that conversation, since we want to head in the direction of
That's a good
allowing
idea.
design
It
houses.
doesn't necessarily need to be part of the subdivision, but it's definitely under, building ordinance
Right.
type
Yes, yes.
rules and regulations that, you know, and that's one of the things that, unless you're building, let's see, it's a timber frame or a log home, your plans need to be made by an engineer.
Yep.
You know, and that can be, what, $3,000 to $5,000 for
Right.
engineering of, house plans? So if we can have the ability to have people come in and say, I bought this piece of property, I would like to have house A, B, or C that's been pre-approved by the by the town ordinance or planning board, to be built within, it meets all, you know, crosses all the I's and T's and all that. If, you know, if they can come in and say, streamline it and make it easier for them to do it, that's one way to encourage people to come in.
Yeah, absolutely, I think that's great. And we keep talking about the planning board, and I have a comment to make about that. I think over the years, the planning board has considered themselves to be the people in charge instead of the council. This has come up in discussion over the years many times with people that I know. They need to understand that when we ask them to do something, they need to do it. We cannot sit here and be hogtied by a committee that is not doing their job. So I just want to say that for the record, because it's extremely frustrating. For a year now, we've been talking about tiny houses and checking the rezoning and doing that, and it's still not even started. So I want to say that for the record. That's what we do. We come up with these plans, and then we ask different committees to do their work. If the committee is not going to do the work, then we need to find people who will. Thank you, I'm done.
Okay, Deborah has been very clear about her feelings about the matter.
Yes.
Do we have another, if we're done with housing, do we have another, item that we would like to jump to? Kath, you had talked about some of the cultural items.
Yes, and
The which items?
cultural items, which
Recreation
starts
and
on
culture on
123.
Recreation and culture.
So we have improving water access to Sibley's Pond as a policy, that's the rec committee. Do we even have, what do we have for, town access and portage to Pacific River? Non-motorized access, so that would fall under our little, community project for the kayak launch, wouldn't it? Be part of that?
Well, we
Yeah.
have
And
is
that's
that
just
one over
helping.
at the Pinnacle non-motor?
No,
Or
you
you could-
can launch there. I don't know
Oh,
if it's
okay.
designated as non-motor, but you can get kayaks in there.
So we-
NCI uses it for theirs.
So we
Yeah.
had a grant project in which we were able to fix up the entire area of the Pinnacle, which worked out really well to make it an all-season park. And so the planning board, the Public Works Department does go down and fix the area where the boats launch. However, the cat nine tails that are there, it's a federal law that we cannot remove them. So
Right.
when people go out with their motorized or unmotorized, they have to go through the area. It's not attractive, but this is the way it is under the state and federal law.
It's
So
all
that
natural.
area was fixed up.
Environmental protection.
Yeah, it's all natural. Welcome to the environment, the moment you step in the water.
And so Portage around Waverly Dam has been, people have tried to plot that all out and just found it to be dangerous and
Yeah.
several people have tried that on their own, and people in the heart of Pittsfield tried to do that.
So that's just a tricky one that might not be feasible. Our goal on that might not be feasible.
What
So
about
that's,
the dock that was supposed to go in though, for the pond?
it's held up at the Department of Environmental DEC Conservation. There's some permitting issues, whether it's a pond or a river.
Yeah,
Is
you
it
would not-
It's a river, but it's
It's-
named Douglas
it's
Pond.
both.
you would not believe the
So-
amount of.
Unfortunately, it's
water that
both.
that.
It's like
It's a river that
tidal
goes through.
waters, it's fresh and
I
salt
thought the
water.
other side was considered river, but the side that was,
It's held up in permitting.
oh my
So
god.
That's one of the things you can
that's
see when you
where
get
that-
down there.
Yeah.
If
That's
we
too
turn,
bad.
if we go to page one, I just wanna keep moving so we're not making
Yep.
much progress here. If we go to page 124, it goes on to talk about linear waterfront park.
Right.
Creation of a linear waterfront park. We kind of have that ability in Manson Park. It's like a very low, it's not hilly, it's very open in that area. I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of a waterfront park other than access to the river would be, but the river's pretty low in there. So it's like, I haven't been down there this summer.
would
Is
be-
it like any water in there right now?
Right.
There is, there
Is
is.
there, but it's, the last time I went, it was pretty
But we
low.
already have a waterfront, this says riverfront. We have a park on the water.
Yeah, we have
Fendler
numerous
Park.
parks.
Well, we have the Fendler Park.
And that's where the boat launch is held up. There's a fountain there that we need to fix. It actually needs to be totally redone because it was not done properly the first time.
Do we need a fountain?
No, I don't think. we do.
It was a request.
It was a request from the Fendlers, and so when it was put in, the committee working on it did it themselves, and so it's never worked properly. Water and sewer departments as well as public works have gone down and fixed it, and jerry rigged it, but it basically needs to be totally dug out if we're going to actually have a fountain that's going to function without having to be worked on each year.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, but the request was done,
it was done.
but are we required to continue with it?
I would throw that right to the recreation department because they're in charge of parks now.
Okay, because the reason that I ask that
And
is,
if
do
they
we
deem it a
really want to
priority,
put more
then-
tax dollars into a fountain that's already on the water?
I need clarification. The recreation committee deals with recreation, not fixing things.
And the parks. And they're supposed to do an assessment of the
Yep.
parks and needs of the parks and then bring those budget items to the council in order for us to be able to
Recreation
look
and
at the
parks.
list.
I didn't
then
realize
see
that
what
had
that
been
was.
decided.
That's their function.
One of their functions is, and I'm not sure how much they can do this year as they just started,
Right.
but to put together a multi-year capital improvement plan for us on recreation and the parks,
Okay.
which are under their purview to assist the recreation director. So since the committee's just started out, that's one of the reasons why they're meeting Friday night.
Right.
There'll only be so much they can do this year, but they did assign somebody in charge of parks
Yeah.
on their committee.
Yeah. So that, I think, it says town council, but I would actually add the Parks Committee because that's a new, development since this plan was
Parks
written.
Committee or the Rec Committee?
Rec and Parks.
Parks and Rec, the committee, yeah.
Wasn't that a
Recreation
show?
and
We're
parks.
not gonna talk about that. That's-
Yep, sounds good.
So you actually have continued working toward the creation of the linear riverfront park because we have fixed up several places that became parks. And so you have parks all along the river.
There's a Remembrance Park
Yes, that's another one.
that's on the pond or the river or
There's a
whatever.
lot of places that are very pretty and people can go and sit and reflect and look at the water. Improvements to town parks, open spaces, local recreation programs, these are all things, monitoring evening use of parks, vandalism, lighting, that would be the police department. Some of these things are just, the gazebo, we can check that off, it's been refurbished.
Completely.
Back in 2003, I think it needs a perusal just to make sure that.
It was just repainted.
No, they just repainted it.
Oh, they did?
It was just
Yeah.
repainted like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think it
Right before the year before the 200.
It's probably more than that. Time
Was it?
flies,
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
it does.
it?
I remember it, so it's within the last 10 years.
No, it was done.
How long ago
It was
was
done
it?
fairly recently.
Not that long.
Yeah, and before that, we got one of the 6 grants that we got for Hawthorne Park to update all the parks. We did go through and put in the new electrical lines so that things wouldn't short out as it had over the years. Put in the new electrical boxes, the new lights with the barriers over them so they can't be poked out and destroyed. And did fixed it underneath the gazebo, took out all the weeds and did a lot of other work. So that was refurbished, we painted it. And then I think a couple of years later, Heart of Pittsfield had a different color, and so they updated it and repainted it with the
I
children.
remember that because our kids went over and helped
Yes.
with that painting.
Point just that when we have these things and we put them in, now they become part of the budget because we have the upkeep.
So that's where what's gonna be good, what towns normally do is they don't have a capital improvement maintenance type budget. They'll fix something up and then, go on to all the other things that need to be fixed up. But in the meantime, 6 years later, you needed to go back and work on that project.
Exactly.
So that's where the
Yeah.
CIP of the Recreation Committee will be very good.
Right. And they'll come up, well, I'm anticipating that they thoroughly, looking at who's on the committee, they all seem like very thorough, organized people. And I would think that they would go at this in a very methodical manner to look at each park, the facilities that are there, the condition of them now, what attention they need, and then a plan to move forward on what the most immediate needs would be versus like the fountain might not be the most immediate need for the
Right.
parks for maintenance. And to go from there.
But
The
Snack
next,
Shack.
yeah. The next item on there was developing a plan for the town farm, including a recreational open space and community garden, and that says the town council on there. I think that would be an entire workshop on its own to take that
Oh,
project and develop it, and I'd love to see like an actual laid out aerial map of the town farm property, what's already there.
Yeah.
And maybe
That
that
would be good.
falls under something that we can do in 2021 as far as doing like an inventory of
Do we have
potential
property?
development.
For a town farm? Do we already have property for a town farm?
We have
We
a
have-
designated space, yeah.
I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
it used to be the town's farm where people worked for food and everything, way
I
back
think it's
in
a
the
great
day.
idea. Augusta just did a big one a couple of years ago and it went really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a number of items down there. The reuse building is there. The fire department's training area that needs its fencing.
Oh, that's the land that's
Yes, the town
across
farm
from the
is down
transfer
there.
station.
Yes,
Oh.
yeah. And there's been talk of the dog park down there and a community garden and a whole variety of things. Walking trails are already down there. It's a major project that you could spend a lot of time on it.
But it's also a project that could have some grant opportunities as far as recreational trail funding from the state and other, like Sebastopol Valley, we might be able to get some funding from them. There's different entities that would be interested in looking at a property like that to develop it for outdoor use.
We have to put together, to actually do this because of its size and its magnitude, we have to do a consortium
Oh, yeah.
of
Yeah.
groups that would work on
You
it.
could get the Audubon Society involved in, you know, in the trail making, create little alcoves for different types of bird life, that you do encourage bird watching. There's a lot of different possibilities for a property like that. So.
And the community garden part, actually had a conversation with Catherine about it, which I thought would be a great idea, but she brought up some points that on the other side, that how do you protect the garden from people who
2-footed and 4-footed.
Yes.
Correct.
that
The
would be
biggest
fine.
problem with putting a community garden down there would be you need a source of water.
Yes.
That would be the
Yes.
biggest impediment to having a community garden down there.
We looked
and
at
do we
that.
have anywhere else that we could possibly
We
put
looked at
one?
that, we can extend a 2-inch line onto the end of the town water system line that ends prior to that. It wouldn't have good volume, but probably would be okay for the community garden.
Yeah,
So-
but I think between the water issues
Yeah.
and the
It's too-
creature issues.
It's too far out.
Yeah.
It's too far out of town to
Yes.
have people go.
It
You
wouldn't
want
be
something in
convenient
town.
for people to go to the, like, after work and they wanna go down and work on their little plot. That would be a little out of the way.
Yeah, same thing with the dog park. I know we had a young lady come in and had a plan for a dog
Yeah.
park down there,
Separate
but
dog park.
if
I
you
have
live
an
in
idea,
town
too.
and you want somewhere to walk your dog, you're not gonna get in your car and drive down Peltoma Ave 3/4 of a mile to a mile to get out and go to the dog park. So,
Well, there are other kinds of dog parks. It's not for walking your dog, it's for socializing your dog.
yeah.
So basically, you just need a fenced-in place where the dogs can, and the owners can let their dogs play with other dogs. It gets them more socialized, and it also calms down dogs who are more active than others. And you put some benches on the outside so people can sit, chat,
That's
whatever.
what she had planned for out there.
But, no, they're not gonna go all the way out there, but we
Right.
could do it in town somewhere.
Right.
But
I
that was
don't
the
know.
kind,
That
that
was
was,
the
oh,
type of
I
park
thought,
that she
I
thought,
thought you
yeah.
had something different,
No,
sorry.
she had it all laid out and there was gonna be
Yeah, you
like
can't put it in
a
down
key
there.
box, or I can't remember, but she had it all laid out for that type of.
Well, I have an idea for where we might be able to do it, but I don't wanna say anything right now,
Okay,
So
because it
on-
might not happen, but,
So
I think-
on the town farm, just to note, for some of you, why this hasn't gone forward is due to the magnitude, but it's also, that property is a mosquito haven to the point where it's almost dangerous to go down through there, except for like 3 weeks of the year and during the winter.
Which is super helpful with a farm.
Yeah.
yes, and they're not normal sized mosquitoes either, they're like humongous.
Oh my God, it's a dangerous.
so then we have, recreation activities on different venues to maximize use, including the schools, identify year-round opportunities, promote increased volunteer, that's recreation department, that's kind of like their
Yeah.
job description.
It's kind of
Um,
stuff that's, all of this is.
A lot of this is,
Some of it's ongoing,
It's all-
some of it is,
ongoing.
are thoughts, some of it, but it's all part of, wanting to make the community attractive for people to live here by having all these little things.
Mhm.
Yes, they have a dog park. Oh, they've got, I have teenagers and there's a skate park. Oh, there's a community garden. I live in town, I don't have a place to put a garden, or I live in an apartment. So eventually these things, if we decide to do them, impact the budget, which is why suggested we look at these recommendations.
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand.
So if we keep going down through these items, some of these things are just like job descriptions for the recreation director. The town council pops up on the rail trail opportunities, the state reimbursement for snowmobile, that happens. As far as putting money over to the drift busters.
Right.
Cleaning up walking paths, we have a lot of walking paths. Pinnacle Trail, extending that to the rail bed, that I'm not familiar with, has that been
Do
done?
we have a
There is-
map of
there
all the
is a-
walking trails? I thought we did at one time.
No, we tried to have a project and actually had it
Actually,
all.
8.4 says develop a.
We did actually, with the chamber, develop a project through a grant with Healthy SV. And then there were issues between the entities and when Healthy SV does contracts, they do like a 2-page item, which doesn't have penalties or deadlines in them usually. And so they had hired a contractor and this project went amok. Yeah. It was very expensive.
Did we get anything out of the project, any prototypes of maps or information?
I
or
have
anything?
copies of items, but I don't have access to the actual map. No.
So it was never created?
It was not, the discs were not given to the chamber
Okay.
and Healthy SV. This was a project that, it was a wonderful project, but the entity that ran the contract didn't do contracts like we do. They didn't have to, but this project needed one.
Doesn't MCI have that hiking or camping, outdoors, I think it's an outdoors
Outdoor club.
club?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something to ask them? They're not gonna be able to travel around and do stuff. So maybe as part of their outdoor club, they might be willing to help us develop trail maps in the area. They can't travel anymore, so.
That's a good idea.
That is
Because
a
they
good
can use
idea.
computer skills.
So
and
it's,
apps
what is
and
it,
things
an
like that.
outdoors club?
Yeah, it's called the Outdoors Club.
Okay,
Outing
this
club,
is
I
good.
thought.
Oh, is it the outing
Outing
club?
club?
That's what it is, you're right. My friend's son was involved in it, so I knew it had out something in it.
This is a good idea, because we've
Yep.
got hand-drawn maps, we need something more professional than that.
That's
And if they
awesome.
wanted to, they could
Even if
team
we
up
should-
with the computer club to help create these maps.
That's a great suggestion. If we move on to number 9, improving information about and access to cultural opportunities and offerings. The theaters listed support the needs of the library, maintenance of the building, local arts community in cooperation with the ballet, Commission of Arts, Maine Commission of Arts. Encourage newspapers to expand coverage of municipal affairs, improving and updating the town website as necessary. We already talked about the website, but I think it would be great if we could have like a cadre of resident reporters that could like submit items to the local newspapers.
That's the only ones that are gonna do it.
You know, I mean, it's because they don't send reporters out, they don't have the budgets for it, they don't send reporters out anymore unless, there's some hullabaloo coming on, but.
That was a very nice way of putting it.
Does MCI have a media club?
I-
They used to have a radio station. I don't
Yeah.
know, I know they don't run that
They
anymore.
also had a television station.
Have you heard of
Yeah,
that?
that was really good.
I think that went out with the TV
But I
station.
mean, there's people in town that have experience in publishing and writing, and in order to create more of a community feel, to get people to interact with, something we talked about before, is how can we get the school more into the town and the town into the school? This could be an opportunity for that to happen.
We also happen to have a
Absolutely.
really awesome photographer in our town.
Right. Several.
This
His
is the part where
Pictures of our community are so gorgeous.
last year, at one point, I was on the Heart of Pittsfield Committee, and we had these recommendations, the section, and everybody took one piece that they wanted to work on. The piece I took was about improve information about and access to local cultural offerings. we don't really have cultural offerings. We're a sports community and an outdoors community. So I took this piece, policy number 9, and I started brainstorming for a community art program. And I think I gave everybody a copy of my handwritten last year. But something like this, some kind of plan where we have art, and we have film, and we have music. I know we had the theater, but the theater I don't consider to be a cultural attraction.
Well, we do have our summer music series.
Yes, we do have some stuff.
Yep.
And we
I'm
have
just,
the
I'm
high school
hoping
music.
that we can have some more permanent things, like a community art program, or art festival, maybe instead of the Egg Festival, when the Egg Festival is done next year. Excuse me.
Need to make 50
And
years. Need to make 50 years.
Yeah. So, because I am not an outdoor person, I don't use trails, I don't go out in the winter unless I absolutely have to. And there's a lot of people like me. I like going to art galleries and going to museums and listening to opera and going to the ballet. Granted, I don't live in New York or even near it anymore, but I think that the community is missing out on not having cultural offerings.
Deb, I have a
And the
question
students
for you.
are definitely in our district not getting what they need. When the district needs to cut money, that's the first place they cut it. Music and art. Yes, sorry.
Have you been able to make it to the stuff at MCI for their concerts and they do an amazing art show every year.
Yes.
And so I think we have it, you've got to go to the schools for it,
But we need to bring it out into the community.
well, the community's invited to go to those things. We do have a community band, it's called the Sebastopol Ballet Community Band. They meet in Newport, but they play, I'm a member, although this year, of course, was a wash. But we're out doing stuff all the time, so we never have done the pavilion, though. I don't
in
know.
Hawthorne Park.
Yeah,
I guess I want.
we do the Egg Festival every year.
Tim?
Some of these things that you're talking about, I mean, I realize like outdoor concerts or outdoors and all that. Some of the stuff in the wintertime, and not everybody gets to the schools. To me, I think the people that are in charge of the UU building, that would be an opportunity for them to latch on and utilize that building as part of your culture and advertise it, or however, or work in conjunction with a committee or with the town and promote that once that building gets going again, because it would enhance them. It would behoove them to do that. It would fit into the plan, and it would also encourage something down on near Main Street, and I think it would draw.
I think that's the plan.
Yes,
To
I think
be
it is
the
too.
universal meeting house, and to be welcoming to lots of different types of experience and art and
Yeah.
things like that. I think that's what they're going to work towards. They have some serious structural things that they're working on through the building right now.
Yeah.
But one of the things I'm thinking of when you're talking about culture and art in town is that at one point when I was talking to Jack about Manson Park, he said that there are plans for a lot more plantings, because it was designed to be a walking park.
Correct.
Back in the
I've seen those
1910s,
plans.
1920s. He's
I've
like,
seen
oh,
them.
there's like sculptures and plantings and all
And
these different
trees
things
and, yeah.
that have never come to fruition. So I'm wondering if that's an avenue where we can bring art into the town. We have some very talented people here in town that create sculptures maybe working with the Maine, Humanities Commission to
Maine
do.
Commission on Art.
Yes, there's a lot of places around that maybe we can work with them to conglomerate together a grant program or to commission some artwork to be done.
Right.
We have buildings in town that it would be great to see some beautiful murals put up on. So there's lots of different avenues that can take, even though we
Right.
don't have buildings per se to put them into.
I think the reason, I mean, everybody loved the idea, but, and volunteers, again, nobody had the time to work on it. I think that it's important that maybe now the council start talking about cultural things as well as all the other things that we do. And we start coming up with having art festivals. Or I talked to the art teacher when I did this, which was a while ago, so I'm sure it's a different art teacher.
Yeah, she left this past year, we have a brand new one.
So, but I had ideas for doing things like having an annual block party for the arts, art shows for kids or adults, promotions, well, and I included the theater and promotions, you know, doing film festivals, like Western Night or
Yep.
Alfred Hitchcock Night or something like that, which I did pass along this year. I just think at this point, the council needs to step up and say, this is important. It's important for the community, it's important for our children, and we need to find a way to make those things happen.
I think it's important to do it in conjunction with our schools.
I-
And places like the UU.
I do as well, that's why I mentioned that,
Involve
because in the
everybody.
winter, it kind of takes a back seat because of conditions.
Right.
You know, you could put everything you want down the park, and some of which I think is a great idea. It will attract people to the park, and then you go, wow, we can eat over here. But in the wintertime, those sorts of things, you need something, either in the schools or like I said, the UU building where it's the center of town, where you can say, okay, you can advertise we're doing this. That catches people's eye that come into town, because we've got more people coming into town now than we used to.
Yeah.
And it will draw once it gets going.
Well, I think that during the celebration of our 200th anniversary too, there was a lot of effort. There was an art show, there was a quilt show,
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
concerts, there was historical walks and presentations and talks. And so I think that, you know, that did not require a huge investment on the part of the town to do that.
Right.
And I think that we could use the work that that committee did, and there were people
As a-
willing to work on it, use
a site
that as a
plan.
building block to kind of build on that and see how we can maybe have some of those same events happen again, or have them be the launching pad for some other things. And we're talking about festivals and things. I know MCI has their snowball, and they have their like spirit
The
week
Winter
type
Carnival.
thing, winter carnival.
Yeah.
They also have Diversity Week.
Yep, and we could have like a
What?
winter festival.
Diversity Week?
If we don't
What
have
is that?
egg festival this week, we could have like a winter festival.
Celebrates
with
all of the cultures in their high school.
Oh,
So
I
they
guess
have-
I'm not hearing, what is it called?
Diversity Week?
Oh, okay, yes, yes, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so that also goes into the cultural part of it.
Yep.
So I think there's lots of different moving parts and pieces. It would just be a matter of, does the council want to put a dollar value on that investment and make it a budget item going forward? I believe this year we had monies that were set aside, Catherine, didn't we, for a June 19th celebration, because that was our 201 anniversary, and that it was gonna be like a yearly day that we celebrated.
We authorized funding for the boat launch, the Pittsfield Day, and then other projects, yes.
Okay, so if we wanted, that funding was just for the rest of 2020?
It would carry forward for those functions until it's completed, or you state it's completed and then we assign whatever money is left over or something else. So you have the funds.
So it was a budget item, so we could just continue that to be a budget item
Yes,
and
it'll-
have it
And
be
then
part of
use
that
it for-
Pittsfield
for
celebration.
different things.
And that Pittsfield celebration
Okay.
day could be celebrating all the cultures that contribute to our town
I
in
think-
different
yeah.
ways.
I
Yeah.
think that sounds great.
So I can carry those funds forward, obviously, because there were some things we couldn't do this year. Barbara De Niro has been in very recently and has gotten the cost for new flags or banners for downtown with a little bit different twist of the design. So there's some items we can do this year.
Yeah.
I just think it's important for the citizens to know that we think that that's important also. Because we do have a lot of artists in this town. You wouldn't know it because
You do have a lot.
they hide.
Most of them work from home too.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You know, they don't have a shop
You know.
on Main Street or an art gallery or something like that.
Exactly,
So,
so we have to work harder to get them to come out
You
and
know what would be a
open.
cool way to do that wouldn't cost any money? Is have a highlight an artist day. Every day of the week, we highlight an artist, a local artist, photographer, sculptor, painter, musician, on the Facebook page. You're constantly recognizing the arts in some way. We have theme days all the time with our,
That could be done with the help of
There's
Sebastica
a lot of that.
Art Alliance.
I mean, something like that would be a great way to recognize our local artists, but
Yeah.
it doesn't cost any money to do it.
It takes a volunteer or a staff person to gather the information, get the profiles, get the photos, post everything. That's what it comes down to, would be a volunteer to probably do that.
Yep.
So on the arts, for the promotion of, the arts during the summer, the library has become very experienced in running the art show and done an excellent job.
Yes.
It's not just art on a festival, they'll have all kinds of different mediums come in.
Mhm.
It's amazing what is put into the library in that short period of time.
It's amazing how many artists we have in this town. When I first started this, which was almost 10 years ago, well, not 10 years,
A while.
5, 6 years ago, I had no idea until I went to a meeting of the Art Alliance and I had a listing and I started going online and looking and it's like Pittsfield. There-
So it's a good place for artists to live.
And so if we can just find a way to promote art by doing a few things during the year,
I think the
you
hard
know,
part is we're in.
if we've got that account, it's a budget item, then we keep it in there and it's not a lot, but it also fits with the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I think that it's very important. I'm a musician and a photographer, and so for me, the arts are, of course, very important. I think the thing that we have to consider, and it's unfortunate that this is something that has to be in our heads all the time now, is a way to promote it and have it happen when we're not doing indoor gatherings. Because unfortunately, I don't see a close to this anytime soon. So
Oh,
we can
right.
utilize social media and digital platforms for now until we can start meeting again and have some kind of outdoor art. But I think it'd be
I have
great
a
to have a
whole
couple of
list of-
sculptures down on the brand new, I don't know if you've been down to the park yet, but they've brand new paved everything. It's gorgeous.
Really?
In Mansfield?
Oh, yes, it's so, there
In
is no more
Manson?
tripping right now at Manson Park. All of their sidewalks have been redone.
Ah,
It's beautiful. But, having a couple of sculptures, as long as it's not going to interfere with the sports fields that are kept up, I think that it's a great way. You can have a cultural art walk that you could go through. As long as we don't have to pay for the sculptures, I think that we would get some kickback for that. But
Yeah.
if you've got artists that want to have their stuff displayed all the time, I mean, we have MCI artists that have done it on our campus at MCI. So I'm sure there are other artists who like that recognition.
Okay.
It'd be fun.
All right, number 10 under the arts and cultural item was working towards the establishment of a permanent community center, which is something that's come up again and again. And of course, funding for something like that is always difficult to come by.
It'd
So
probably
there's
be
that.
about, it'd probably
It's
be
a big
about
hurdle
6
to jump.
million, 7 million
It's a big hurdle to
to
jump.
build a moderately sized community center.
Yeah.
If you wanted something like the Boys Club, Girls Club in Waterville, the Alphonse Center, you're looking at probably 30 million.
Yep.
Easily. And there's no way
Yeah.
that we could ever have either one. So I think maybe we have to think outside the box again about how we come up with a community center without spending that kind of money.
Well, maybe it's not a community center, but expanding the center of our community outward.
Okay.
You know, expanding it from the downtown area and expanding our community as we go out into Somerset, as we go out
Right.
Route 100 and down Route 100 and out Altoma. And how can we bring community to those other areas that aren't right central on Main Street in our
Right.
small, narrow block? One of the realities is that we do have a very limited space to develop in our downtown area. Very, very limited
Mhm.
due to just the layout of our town. You know, we have a lot of water on one side, a railroad track, a park, a cemetery, the airport, you know, it's kind of hemmed in a little bit. So we do need to think outside a little bit.
Yeah.
But that item is there. I see that as a very long-term, goal, and I don't see us making any progress on that one this coming year. In all
No,
honesty.
no.
It's just not gonna happen
I
this
just,
coming year.
it's very
So-
important to me, and that's why I kept harping about, let's go over this comprehensive plan, because there's so much in here that needs to be done, and we haven't been able to, and we just need to make ourselves and the community aware
Yep.
that we are now looking at this plan, and we are gonna start, looking at the strategies for implementation as much as we possibly can within money guidelines.
Right. So far we've looked at housing, outdoor activities, some recreation, and then some cultural and arts items. Did anybody else have any items they specifically wanted to look at? Tim or Pete, Amanda, did you have anything specific? We haven't talked about, public services, local economic development,
What about capital improvement?
natural resources. Historic resources, I think, fall within the Historic Society and, Historical Society. And one of the things on there can be checked off, the restoration of the depot house has been
Yeah.
completed.
It's so pretty.
Did they have more work to do in the back of that building, or are they just looking at the little caboose car there?
The caboose is an area they wanna work on.
Yeah, so they still have some goals on that as well. And I know Ron had talked about before becoming like a nationally accredited historical society, and a little bit about the work that was gonna need to be done to do that. But that would be goals squarely within the historical society. And I would hope that I could speak to the council and say that we would be supportive as a council of any efforts that they have on that, and in what way that they needed help with that. And then natural resources, lakes and water, planning board, council seeking legal access to the town adjacent land adjacent to the Sibley Pond and manage the forest in a manner to prevent erosion. Do we even need to hold that piece of property? It doesn't have good public access.
It doesn't have any public access.
Are we committed to retaining that piece of property, or could we dispose of that piece of property?
The deeds are confusing on the property. We should, if we want to determine if we'd like to try to sell that, and then it could be abutters interested. The abutters that really like it are further down toward the Sibley Pond Road, but that doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't come along. We would need to do the legal research, hire somebody to sort through the deeds and actually come up with who owns what and determine, is there a legal access or not. the abutter state the town has no access. And so when we've gone down, and the last time I went down was with John Dixon, you know, it was blocked off and we had to ask permission to drive down, but then, you know, they told us they'd put their guns away and we could go down. So we went down, and looked around, but it's very difficult to get down to the property.
And is the property desirable? Like, it would not be, would it be appropriate for like a town swimming hole? Is it large enough? It's not.
The access is the issue, that, I mean, we're talking a lengthy distance to get to the site, and the fact that it's not in great condition. Back then it was very rutted. I can't even imagine what it looks like now.
So parking's gonna be an issue.
Parking is
You
an
can't
issue,
have-
yeah.
Okay.
So
Just
we-
on that, I would say sell it, there's no benefit to the town in holding it.
So we're gonna make
But
sure
there's no
that we
access.
are the actual owner, because there are people that contest that we own this.
Okay.
So this has its, you know, interesting legal history before I got here, and then digging into this, did show that we would need to have somebody actually go through and, find out about the title. It's a tax acquired property.
Are they paying taxes on it?
It's a tax acquired
Nobody's
property.
paying taxes on it,
So
although
nobody
somebody
owns it
thinks
but us
it's
then,
theirs.
right? I mean, legally, if nobody's paid taxes on it for however many years, wouldn't that make it ours because we've now footed the bill for that?
I would say that,
Normally I would say so, but there are so many abutters down there that think that they own it.
but none of them pay taxes.
That would be correct, but we didn't send them a tax bill. So,
Well,
this would need a
somebody
legal
was
review.
Somebody was being billed initially because they didn't pay the taxes.
Right.
And the town received it. So at what point did somebody else step in and say, well, they were paying the taxes for me and it's really my piece of property?
It's
It doesn't
simply-
make any sense.
Yeah, we would simply need to do an actual legal review.
Do you have an idea how much that is?
This
one
is
that's
a
done by a
convoluted
civil
one, so
fund.
I can get a
Here,
quote
the
for
town of
this.
Canaan.
But I mean, I know that in past
Doesn't have good access.
times, it's been that if we wanted to take something like that off the rolls, the town had to pay the town for the taxes that would have
Yeah.
been collected, so.
There's
would
no
we-
taxes on
So
this.
there's no taxes, okay, there's nothing. you
This
can
is
do.
not that problem.
Okay.
That's a weird situation that, once I became aware of what was going on, I took it off the tax rolls, but this problem dated back into the nineties.
I'd love to see a quote on what it would cost in order to figure that one
Okay.
out, because if we don't own it, then let's start taxing someone on it. And
Absolutely.
if we do own
Really?
it, let's sell it if it's not a useful piece of property to the town.
And then one of those places that's challenging it can buy it.
They can buy it and pay taxes on it. You know, it just doesn't seem to me like we should be holding on to this piece of property that doesn't have a benefit. We can't provide access to our residents for it.
Right, I
So-
mean, how did we wind up having a
Tax
piece?
acquired.
Well, people, it's tax acquired, but people felt it had, your predecessor felt it had great significance to the town. There's a historical element here too, from many years ago. So I will get an estimate so that we can, update the title and make sure, we believe we're the owner, but every time we go down there, people come out and this starts up and everything.
Well,
Just ask them to.
there had to
distribute
have been
their
a right of
tax
way
bill.
to that piece of property. It was tax acquired, somebody did own it, didn't pay their taxes, and we wound up with it. The people that did have it must have had a right of way. That's what we should be looking for.
That would be correct, however, there's no guaranteed right of way in the period of time that we acquired it. This is like a long-standing legal snafu thing. It's sort of like the one that, Tim, the one that Keith looked at with one of the properties down there where other people think they own it, and it's all messed up from the past.
That's why it's been left alone.
Yeah, yeah. So in the list of all the work that you have to do and positive items you can work on, this one sort of has been left over for decades.
Somebody would have challenged it, they would have lost in court, but on the other end, it would have cost you a lot of money, so they just left it alone.
Okay.
We'll get a quote for a legal review.
Okay, that would be great. It'd be nice to check that out. Everything else under policies number 5 on page 123 are all things that we're kind of already doing, addressing the sanitary and storm drainage.
Oh, yeah.
Working with DOT to preserve the Sibley Pond boat access.
We did that one.
Erosion control for best management practices with town employees. That sounds like just a training item. Other than that, I didn't see anything else in that one. We already talked about culture and recreation, local economic development. A lot of this, I would like to see peak listed on some of these items.
I was thinking the same thing when I read through that.
As far as working with regional development partners, public-private initiatives, we work with Kennebec Valley, KV-COG with numerous different items.
Yeah.
Heart of Pittsfield has been established as an advocacy group. I would really like to see us form a Main Street program. I know we can't, or have been told we can't have like a full-on Main Street partnership, but we can be an associate member. There's a lot of work that can be done as far as organizing our businesses in town. We're getting more and more businesses every year, it seems. I think there's 6 or 9 that were listed still on the town, on the agendas of each meeting in the last year or 2 that are on there. So I would love to see an organization in town that where all the businesses can do like an after hours, or just be able to have like a Facebook group where we can talk to each other.
They used to
and things like that.
where the doctor's office is now on Main Street, my in-laws it was a clothing store, and they had a merchants association is what they called it. And so I had talked to a few of business owners, and it got like lukewarm reception, but I think it's because they couldn't picture. But I think we should encourage it, because I think they help each other. That's what they do in Waterville.
Yep.
I mean, you go into one business and they have cards for some of the other businesses. They have meetings, they talk about how they can support each other. So I think it's really important.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce down there is super active.
That is one of the best in the state.
Super active Chamber of Commerce. They come into the community colleges.
Well, when you have a distinguished college like Colby, you get a lot more done.
How do we become a part of that group that you were just talking about?
It takes somebody to step forward and want to do it. We need a coordinator. The way the program works is it works in thirds. So it's a third buy-in from the community, a third from the businesses, and a third from the municipality. So if you have an established budget of $100,000, each would have $33,000 that they would raise in some way or capacity. You know, part of the towns could be in-kind work for things that need to be done, like infrastructure-wise or other things. And then that budget becomes what can be used for you know, development, advertising, having a clearinghouse, like a one-stop shop where people can come in if they want to start a business in town. Amanda, you go to the Pittsfield Business Development Center, and there's a person there that can walk you through all the things you need, the permitting that you need. And then you go see the CEO and you talk to him about this, and then you call the state, and this is the person at the state, to really handhold people to get them to the point where they're opening a business in town.
So it's kind of like Peak, but not confidential.
It's Peak, but it's like Peak, but it's on a public face of Peak, I guess.
Right.
Where other things need to happen behind the scenes, but this would be the initial meet and greet type thing. And they could also, if you're familiar with Main Street Skowhegan, they run classes for businesses. They have businesses pay in memberships that are then supported back out to them. They did a facade grant to help businesses fix the facades on the front of their buildings. Some people got new signage, you know, and it really makes a big difference, and it helps give a way for all the businesses to work together. It also has a fundraising function in that they have the ability to have someone that is dedicated to writing grants, which would take that piece off of Catherine's very large plate that of all the things that she does for the town. It would take that piece off and have a dedicated person that can do that and field those phone calls and follow up on all those items.
And is that a paid position?
It's a paid position, yeah. You pay someone to do it. But it's a public-private partnership, and there's fundraising within the community as well to help support it. So traditionally, that's how it works. A lot of times it starts with a part-time position, a part-time person, like 3 days a week or something. And then as the program grows, you add hours to that so that they can meet the capacity that's needed in order to provide the services.
That sounds cool.
So, I mean, that's one way to go about economic development, more on a Main Street level rather than on an industrial level, which is most of what Peak deals with, is large project type things.
So this is more geared toward the small business owner.
Yeah, you come in and you want to start a new
Like
cafe,
Outland
or you want to
Brewery.
have a new little shop, or it would be the first place that Heather and Mike would have come and met someone.
Exactly.
Maybe they take them out for a tour of town and they help them find the properties that are for sale, or things like that. So it's kind of like the public face of the town as far as economic development would go. So there's that.
I like that.
How do we qualify as an associate? I don't understand, because we have a Main Street, but that's not really a Main Street.
Well, I would have to go back. I haven't looked at this in almost a year because we had a meeting last September and the applications were due like the first week of October.
Right.
And there was a meeting of about 20, maybe 22 people at the library last fall. And that were willing to like support and work on this project. So there's a lot of volunteerism that has to go into this as well to build the program. But you do get some support from the Main Street Foundation, which is a nationwide type program. They have a lot of fundraising tips. They have a lot of like scaffolding and structuring to help you get started. But I would have to go back and look to see exactly how the associate program fits in.
Right, because we don't qualify under the full program because we don't really have a Main Street. Because our Main Street is mostly business, not, it's like a business district.
Right.
Rather than a Main Street with shops and.
Right. It's not a traditional Main Street per
Correct.
se. You can't walk down and go window shopping, you
No.
know. But
There aren't
but
that
it's an
many windows
opportunity-
to look in either.
Right, it's an opportunity to help build your Main Street. You know, but it's definitely a non-conventional way to do it.
They set
For
up
us.
the affiliate group so that towns like us and even Farmington became an affiliate and didn't go for the full membership because of the size of the budget that was required. But in the olden days, when we tried for this a few times, we were told we didn't qualify each time. But it's more receptive now to unique setups like we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that case,
So there's interest in doing that, and it would also, you know, it would free up some of Catherine's time if she's not that person that everybody kind of has to kind of meet with. If there's another person to fill that role, and to also provide support for all the grants and things like that for economic development.
So with this person who does like grant writing and stuff like that, would they also help with like business plans, for example?
Yeah, if you hire the right person. If they can't help you write your business plan, they should be directing you to those services like ECMDC, Eastern Maine Development Council up in Bangor. They have some programming. SCORE has some programming. You know, you can talk to a SCORE counselor and they'll come and meet you right at your house if you want their help writing a business plan.
We have a listing
Who
of
is
those.
that?
We have a
SCORE?
listing of those services. I can get that to you. SCORE is very helpful.
Yeah.
I've
They
been
have-
approached by a certain
Yeah.
person
They have a
who you
setup.
know who I'm talking about, who has asked me to help with their business plan, which
Yeah.
I can do,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody who really knows it.
Yes, I did give him, I
think
did
he
give
goes
him
with
a
who he's
list of
comfortable.
resources, and he said, no, Amanda's gonna help me.
Yeah, it's the Service Corps
I'll
of
reach out to
Retired.
these people.
It's the Service Corps of Retired Executives. That's what SCORE stands for. And it's everyone from it's a lot of bankers, there's a lot of retired bankers, a lot of retired business people. And they'll
Who
review.
do this for free.
They do it for free.
Yeah.
All of their
They're
services are for
volunteer
free. They're
services.
volunteers. And they'll help with business plans, they'll help you find economic numbers. The Somerset Economic Development Council can also be helpful, but it's a one-man show over there, so each time is hard to get a hold of them.
I'm sure.
Um,
No, thank you, I'll reach out to that group.
So
Yeah.
Catherine, did you say you would get us a list of those types of?
Yeah, I have a list of all of those resources that we provide to people. Now, in the days in which the organizations had enough funding, they would come here and have office hours, or we would bring them in for a special day and advertise it to everyone. But now with the way websites are set up and Facebook and everything, it's mostly, done through your connections over the phone or the email.
Well, when you have services like Zoom that can
Yeah.
allow.
And that's used now, I'm sure a lot more than it used to be this year.
Yeah, I think Microsoft has theirs too. Is
Yeah,
that
Microsoft Teams, yeah. Yeah, MDOT uses that.
Yes,
This pandemic has created the wave of the future.
Yeah.
Yes. it
well, I
is.
think what it's done is it's pushed people into the wave of the future that was already there, but
Yeah.
They didn't want to
In
go,
the
but they
background.
had
A
to.
lot more people are working from home, a lot of the co-working spaces that were planned aren't going to go forward, because it's just not necessary, everybody's already working from home.
And I think when we're looking at the development with the planning board of this strategic plan,
Mhm.
that's stuff that we have to consider. What if there is a pandemic level shutdown again?
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I keep reading these things that say that not necessarily the second wave of this, but I'm talking about, they're saying another 5 to 10 years down the road,
Oh,
there
yeah.
could be another one like this, but even worse.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we're doing these kind of plans, we have to consider that. What is our emergency practice?
Right.
So we tried to do all of the assistance to the businesses in-house, but it's difficult for the staff, so I have worked on that. But what I have always done is outsource it to the experts.
Yes.
I start them off and they get comfortable, and then we send them off to other people.
Right. Well, and with the amount of work that's already done in the town office, that would be hard to
We
be
send
able
them-
to give that
We send
level
them to
of
the
service.
experts, yeah,
So
not us
I
general.
think having that list will be good.
So, so small business development, and then, industrial park marketing, that's kind of, 13 here. It's kind of not necessary. We keep saying all the lots are sold, but don't we have 2 lots that still actually need to come to us for sale?
No,
That we need to approve the sale of those 2 lots?
No, we sold them,
We did.
we did.
Yeah, I thought we already approved
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, Innovative Specialties bought the rest of
Oh,
them.
that's right, we had to the map had the wrong number. Okay,
Oh,
I
we
remember
found
that.
another number, I told you all, this was recent, and I thought, how many could it have had over the years?
So industrial park is pretty much filled, so
Right.
maybe we need to think about creating a new industrial park somewhere, or, and other tax credit programs, and then looking down further, Somerset Ave is a gateway, improved gateway signage. We
Right.
definitely need to have better signage coming into town. All of our signs coming in, we don't even have one on the Burnham town line, other than the state one, the green one. We don't even have one at that end. We don't have one on Peltoma. We have one on Route 100 coming from Newport that's very tired looking, and the one out on Route 2 is very tired looking. And we have this great our little Pittsfield logo, thing that would be great to have, new signs made.
That's good stuff to submit to the Boy Scout troop for Eagle
To
projects.
put new signs up, to create new signage.
Because they have to do fundraising for that and
Yep.
work with businesses and stuff, so I think something like that, because I agree, we need new signs.
We definitely need new signs.
And to
Well,
use our
we're
new logo
using-
would be fantastic.
Yes.
But, I think that would be a great Boy Scout troop thing that somebody might be willing to jump on.
Yeah, I would love to see this logo, or this logo and our little tagline, a good place to call home, painted on our office wall against the police station wall there, right above our.
With this beautiful
Workforce.
blue here too.
Yes,
Mhm.
bright blue and white to stand out there. I think it would be a really welcoming thing to see for people to come in.
All right, so that's a budget line.
It is a budget line, and it's an art thing.
Yes, it is. Except there will come a time when we'll have to come up with a new one.
Mhm.
Well, this is only 2 years old.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it was for our 200th. But it would just be the Pittsfield and a good place to call home.
Yeah. Oh,
So we're
yeah, I
working,
It would
like
be
that.
the whole
I really
celebration.
like that.
we're working on the vehicles now.
That's the same one you use when you send out emails.
Yes.
I think I love that. I don't know who came up with it, but I
I
love
think
it.
Barb did.
Yeah, Bob did,
Barb De Niro.
yeah, it was
Love it.
a contest for the town logo.
Ah,
So adequate staffing resources dedicated to economic development activities. I would say that we don't exactly store high marks on that one because our staff is so stretched thin on that.
Did
So
you
that's
jump a
definitely something.
page?
Nope, I'm still on 127.
okay.
Number 14.2.
Oh, okay. I have so much writing in here, I'm losing track.
Identify appropriate grant programs, further economic development strategies in the most cost-effective manner possible. Conduct a biennial market analysis and inventory of resources to determine appropriate areas for growth, including local businesses. Survey to identify training and complementary needs. I'm not sure what all that means.
Yeah.
We're gonna survey them to see what kind of training we need to provide to them? I don't.
We actually used to send out a survey over the email to the businesses to see what type of speakers and training programs they were interested in. Now, this is something older that got carried forward into this plan. Now, you can just simply send them to all the different websites and they can pick up the training, of which there's a massive amount of free training.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe on the resources website, you have a small business resources and it lists trainings.
Yeah.
Instead of having to do, you know, the update, the look at it is making sure that we have the most updated resources.
Yes, they get checked, but I will tell you, those websites can, those can change pretty quickly. You
So
almost have to go
fast.
through on a weekly
They do,
basis.
yeah.
There's
I
a
think
lot
it's
of things
more-
that we could do to support existing businesses too, like the
Yeah.
Merchants Association, or spotlighting a business of the month.
Yes, now
Putting
we
it in
did
the Rolling
that.
Thunder.
We used to do that, but we got criticized for, we would send out through the emails to all the businesses in the newer ones and say, hey, who would like to be spotlighted? Send us your information, we'll write it up, take a picture. So we would do this and we did quite well for a while, but then other businesses started saying we were promoting these businesses inappropriately over other businesses, and so we
My
did stop
God.
that.
Wait, what if we do like Small Business Saturday and every week you highlight a business? I mean,
Well,
Small
we need
Business
to have
Saturday I
a-
know is technically in November, but I mean, if we already have profiles of all the businesses.
Well, we used to, we haven't done this for a while because of the criticism that we were under for doing, we were promoting, people thought,
Some businesses and
several,
not others.
three
Well-
businesses thought we were
Well, I mean, we have
promoting.
52 weeks in a year.
There's no way to please everybody,
Yeah.
but we have to come up with some kind of a plan that supports the businesses.
I can tell you, other than
Business
being
of the
on,
month usually is a big hit.
other than being on the town council, some of these businesses I would have never known existed.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
it
there's
wasn't for
even
coming to
more.
the
Well, then
town
we have a
council
lot of
meetings.
business people that,
There's even more businesses, people that work out of their homes that
Oh, yeah.
don't wanna be advertised, you know.
Well, which they of course have the option
They
to
don't
not
need to
be,
be,
but.
for their type of
Do
business.
we have, forgive me, I have not looked before coming to the meeting, do we have a business listing on the website of all the businesses?
We have a business listing of those that have authorized us to list them.
Okay,
Now,
well, there we go.
there's a number of people that we put on in the beginning, and then they started getting people showing up at their properties wanting to buy things, but they were all through the mail. at that time. So then we had to get sign off for people to be put onto the website, because not everybody wants to be advertised. So
I don't really understand that, but
Well, it's because they don't want their location
And
advertised.
they don't want the people showing up at their home, or if they don't have customer base that shows up, they don't want people wanting to buy things.
Right.
Because then you have to order it through mail a lot of the times,
Yeah,
and
because
they don't
they
have
just
an
do it.
inventory stock right there.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just list their name and just list the business name and then the website or the Etsy store or however people can get their product instead of putting their.
We couldn't get sign off, but maybe that's something when, two things that I picked up from this, which is helpful. The staff has been working on fixing the website for a while. I'm gonna help them redesign this. I've got some ideas on how to do that within the framework that we have, which is very user-friendly. And two, I've got a really good idea from comments that you've all made, where I need to create an area where I list, instead of on our brochures, all of our items that make us unique, but somehow it just shows right up on the webpage as soon as you get there. Instead of a write-up, it's just there. So we'll figure that all out. And we'll update the business listing. We need to do the employment figures anyway, because it's quarterly.
and
Yeah,
so
so
a
we'll do
buy
an
local
overhaul.
program too.
Pardon?
Well, we
A
have
buy
the
local
We
program.
have
Yeah.
the Pittsfield, the Buy Pittsfield. There's a brochure that was put out by Heart of Pittsfield. They put out a local business brochure, which I think could probably be updated because we have some
Yeah.
new ones. Like a lot of the things we're talking about are things that Heart of Pittsfield could do. But you know, they have a limited number of people that are participating in their group right now, so there's only so much of them to go around as well. But it's I think it's encouraging groups like that to actually take on some of these projects and to provide an avenue for distribution if they create something. And maybe if they create it, we can help them with printing costs, because that can be an impediment to someone. They can spend the time and create a brochure, but then they don't have the money to actually print the brochure.
We did print them at the town office.
Right. That's how we can-
resupply.
That's how we can support their work, is being able to help them with distribution as well as maybe the printing costs. So, let's try and keep going through some more of these things. We've already done housing, so we flip to page 129, transportation.
I think my big thing with transportation, even just reading through this, we have to have some kind of plan that, for the most part, is stuck to. I know weather-wise, we have to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes our winters are longer than they are other years. But the street painting has to be done as soon as the snow is gone and it's safe to do it where the stuff will stick. I, again, almost got sideswiped by a huge Dodge Ram who went straight at that light and from
At
the
what
left
light?
lane instead of going into the right lane. And that's something that, has to be addressed. We have a lot more traffic in town with Puritan coming in. We have a lot more businesses looking at coming in, and there needs to be some kind of schedule that Public Works sticks to, like in the spring, as soon as the snow's gone and the temperature is leveled, we have to do the sidewalks. I know this year was off because of COVID anyway, but it takes forever for some of this stuff to do, and it's happening right before plow season, and then it's ripped right back up again. And it's not just the town of Pittsfield, this is all over the place. So when I'm looking at this plan, I think the thing I'd like to see the most come out of this is a pretty structured plan on at least the paintings of those things.
So for the painting of the arrows, that is the Department of Transportation, and they have been contacted numerous times. They put down all the big arrows. We do the block prints, stencil, the big ones that go across the
Oh, I thought you had said that some.
in the downtown. But the DOT usually comes through in spring, then it got to be early summer, and now it'll be late summer. They will come through and put all those arrows down, the arrows on Somerset, the arrows going onto Honeywell.
Can we just do it?
We don't have the arrows. They have the arrows.
I
We
thought
can't
at
make
the,
arrows.
That's
We
their
can't make an
stencil.
arrow stencil.
We could, all of our stencils, we have stencils that are purchased, so that they meet the M,
DOT.
yeah, there's a MOTC code or
Right.
something like that, yeah.
That's why the state does the
Yeah.
arrows,
Well-
and we get to do the crosswalks.
Yeah, we do all the crosswalks. The state used to do crosswalks on several roads, but over time, they just never showed up, so we finally did them. Some
I
of
guess
them
I
we-
thought I remembered you saying that we did some of the arrows at our meeting last week. So
Um,
maybe I misunderstood, or,
Yeah, it's just, we do the crosswalks.
so
And
is
I
it
have
possible, I
contacted
mean, I
the-
don't know what the cost is to get that, but waiting for the state is hard.
It is a state road and they're supposed to do the,
Is it possible to contact them and see if we can borrow a template?
that's, see, to you and I, that sounds really good, that we would go do it.
The state
But I'm
will say
100% sure the Maine Department of Transportation will see this as a liability, and it will be an answer of no, which I understand. So, we'll contact them again, but the arrows are needed in several locations.
Oh, I know, but that one right there, I'm now on my,
Can we write them a letter? Can the council write them a letter about it? Just pointing out that, we have
safety
this,
issues.
this new employer in town that, the traffic at that intersection has increased dramatically and that not having this.
And maybe request
Signage.
signs that could go up next to our lights if they can't paint them in a timely fashion, since that's their intersection.
Yeah, I've noticed if you go around, there's a lot of areas that haven't been painted yet, so this is an overall issue. I wouldn't think that MDOT had stayed open the whole time, so I wouldn't think it was a COVID-19 item, because
Yeah.
they kept on working.
Well,
Right.
they did lose a lot of employees.
Yeah, maybe
For
that's
some
part
of it.
of it, yeah.
So,
And the paving got put back too,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
so a lot of the things under transportation, Catherine already does as far as funding solicitations, monitor vehicle speeds,
Let's just say through
Monitor
your school
vehicle
funding.
speeds. How do we do that?
It's listed, well, and I think just through complaints of speeding probably, but it's 45 miles an hour in the industrial park. Everywhere else in town is
I know.
25.
You know, that should be, that
And it's
should,
only a quarter
we
mile
tried to
long.
fix
And you
that.
can't change it?
That
You have
should
to
be-
have the
We
state
tried
change
to
it.
do that.
yeah, I know, the state should change that back down to 35, because
It's a
we're
state.
35 miles an hour down past the cemetery.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a
We're 35 miles an hour all the way down to where the reuse building is.
They're not gonna change it.
And they won't change it, but they should, because that's not the place for 45 mile an hour speed
No.
limit.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
It's the state law is the issue, they have to
Yeah.
follow that state law.
So, the first one that I'm really concerned with there is maintain adequate funding in the local road budget for maintenance of our local roads. I have it circled.
Who has that one?
That's our number one,
19
goal
what?
under transportation.
19.1.
So, I think that, that's the first thing that we should try and address. Some of these other things have already been addressed or are not really an issue for us to address. Like the Pan Am Railway has already been
We did that.
addressed on Main Street, so
That was
that's
a
all
good
set.
project.
Some of these other things are gonna be addressed through our Main Street project,
Yes,
committee.
yes.
And those type, like the walk lights and things like that. But square on our plates is definitely the road budget. And
Yes.
I hate
because-
the idea of it, but we have to put a budget line in.
We
did.
have to.
We did.
No,
This last time we set aside,
I wanna say $50,000.
yeah, it wasn't much,
It
but we
wasn't much,
started,
but it was something.
we started
Yeah.
a line
It's a
last.
step in the right direction.
that's right, I remember that now. It wasn't just borrowing that we did
Yeah.
put a.
Yeah.
And we can't take another loan out.
No,
It's absolutely
no, it doesn't make sense.
impossible.
No, I'm getting
Well, we would have no way to pay
uncomfortable
it.
on that.
So,
So it's gonna come down to the fact that we need to increase that budget line item.
Yeah, it was just a starting point
We're
last.
gonna be able to do
last year.
some
It was just slowly
paving,
increase.
but it's gonna be
I
a
remember
small
that.
amount of paving. $100,000 is only, and that would wipe out the whole amount, but that would only be, what, a half a mile?
If that,
If
depending
that.
on the type
Well,
of
yeah.
work.
Those costs keep going up, so it may not even be half a mile.
Yeah, Yeah, and plus you have culvert work, I mean, I think Steve said it's $30-something thousand to do culvert work just on the part of the Higgins Road that we're paving this year. Just, I hope we're gonna start paving it at some point.
Again, something we have no control over.
You know, that's $30,000 out of the road budget right there, just to do culvert work and cut
Right.
back and grading and whatnot. So,
And we talk about in our mission, the attractiveness of our town and the safety of our town. Well, that hits both of those.
yeah, it
The
does.
number one complaint, actually, we joke about it. When you cross over the Detroit line into Pittsfield, it's like, oh, I could have my eyes closed because I can hear the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a
yeah.
state road though, too.
Well, I know,
mean,
but that's
everybody-
just an example
Yeah.
of some of the things. I know those are state roads and we can't control that.
Yeah.
I totally understand, and that is what I tell people who say
I
something.
get so upset when people rip the town on Facebook about that, and I'm like, it's a state road.
I had one person who said, thank you for telling me that because I didn't know.
Yeah,
And
and
then I was like,
Exactly.
yeah, we can't.
But Higgins Road, that's our road.
That is.
Yes, and we need to fix that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I agree, we do need to have a budget line item in there every single year and probably increase it a little each year. What
That
that's
was
A
the
gonna
budget
last year we
line
started.
item
yeah,
for what?
what that's for paving.
Paving, we don't have one?
We have one,
We
we
do now.
started
I
one
mean,
for
haven't we
this
always
year.
had one?
No.
No.
You did until we ran into budgetary issues and we switched over to loans.
Cause I'm
And then
thinking
it got
back
to
to
a
when I,
point where the council didn't want to borrow the money and decided not to borrow the money. So this went on for a while, and then
Right.
we got into the situation when the Pittsfield Future Funds came, and then a couple of years later started the big $706,000 loan, which would be paid back by Pittsfield's Future, but two of those are enough, you know, you're gonna
We
use
wanna
up the money.
keep, we wanna
Right.
keep some money in there. So.
I always thought there was when I was
There
on
was.
council before.
Yeah, there
That's
was.
why I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
There isn't, somewhere in there, it disappeared.
It's,
The line
okay.
Well, I think something.
But you
else
put it
was
back in
to
last
avoid
year.
Raising taxes, right?
But it also happened that the paving cost went from $9.50 per thousand up to 33 to 40 something to over 100, and so
Right.
that was part of the issue.
Exponential cost increase.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just gonna go up more.
Yep.
And this is why we have to educate our community,
Mhm.
because they don't know these things, and yes, our taxes are high, but it's just like when you go to the grocery store, and last week, that can of peaches was $1.79, and now it's $1.99.
Food costs are gonna go
It's
up too.
Everything.
It's getting to the
Going
point,
up.
it's getting, I'm sorry, go ahead, Deb.
I just feel that when I hear people say things about things needing to be done that is not our responsibility but the state's, I tell them that.
Yeah, I do too.
This is the state's responsibility. You need to go down to Augusta.
Yeah.
I didn't know it about the arrows, or I would have been calling them.
Tim, what
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, you know, the thing of it is
They're feeling harassed by
We-
those that are calling.
I agree that we need to increase that. I mean, how much we can increase it at the end of the budget time, I really don't see a huge increase in that, to be honest with you, because I don't think the money was gonna be left over. We have to keep a budget item every year on that, because that's just gonna cover the cost going up. I try to tell people, look, you know, how much would it do, we figured that out once, what it would cost to pave every road in town, what was it again?
Oh my God.
It was over $8 million.
Over $8 million.
That was back then.
And that was back then, so probably 10 million now. People's eyeballs starting to fall out of their head when you tell them that. It's like a car, you know. Not everybody can drive a $60,000 truck. I mean, you know, you've only got, you can't deficit spend. If you don't want to be like the state of California and be broke, the state of Maine cannot deficit spend by law. So we're hamstrung. We can only spend what we have.
We are at a point where we need to make investments in our infrastructure because we haven't for so long.
Exactly.
But we're also at a point where we can mitigate the damage to the roads that are in okay shape by putting a sealing program in place.
Yes.
And a sealing program, I think Steve said, would kind of help us close that gap of being on like a 40-year plan to being to maybe a 20-year plan. Does that maybe the numbers aren't right on that one, but it helps close the gap and preserve those roads that aren't so bad yet, but are worth putting a little into to keep and maintain
So that we
that.
don't have to pave.
Right, and then slowly
Absolutely.
chip away at the roads that are really, really horrible, like the Higgins Road, mostly the
Right,
roads that
Grove
are
Hill.
out in the country. Because
The
they don't
minute
get
you
the
cross that
attention.
line, I feel like my truck is going over railroad tracks the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm coming into town, it's awful.
And there's a few in-town roads, like Amanda's mentioned Library Street several times.
Horrible.
That has
Horrible.
so many issues going on underneath it that have to be fixed before you put anything on top of it.
And
It doesn't
again, the
make sense.
community needs
do
to
that.
be educated about that because they don't, all they see is the road needs to
Yeah,
be
it's a
fixed.
whole
They don't know that
Yeah.
we have a
You
whole
would
set
think
of
we'd know
problems
that
underneath
it
that
would be.
road.
So that's stuff that we've talked about a couple times at council meetings, so I kinda wanna move on to trying to, we've got three
Yep.
more things to do here. Page 130, bicycle pedestrian plan, that's already been done, or?
We did that,
That's
yeah.
already been done,
That's
so
a-
let's check that
that's
one
a
off.
check off.
DOT funding, update the master airport plan, that's
We
being
did
done.
that, yeah.
Ordinance provisions to ensure noise and glare from transportation system doesn't create a nuisance? Is that from the, I'm not sure what that is.
Transportation.
Noise and glare.
The train going through town?
Well,
Or the
I thought
flash
they
from
weren't
the
supposed to,
airport?
Yeah, they have a no blow horn,
Oh,
but they
so-
blow the horn.
Or Jake breaks or something
They actually
like that.
don't blow the horn there.
yeah, it's further down by where I live, they blow the horn. Yeah, but you hear it down here.
Yeah, if they don't, I know because I live right there, they don't blow the horn there anymore. Actually, we were shocked,
Well, you
because I
have,
didn't know that went through.
you have lights and, barricades there. I think they blow the horn at crossings where there are not lights or
Correct,
barricades.
yeah.
Cause they do sound it, we hear it out at the Snake Root Road.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on really quiet mornings, we can hear it, like even
Yeah.
before that. And then, they do blow it at you if you're pushing it as too fast.
So we just have to
Stop.
file a form, with the FRA, each year, and then they go through the exercise of making sure there haven't been accidents or issues, and then they issue the letter that the, horn will not be blown there.
The only time they blow it is when you've got, and this happens, the little kid standing there.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I watch them do it.
It's a little too, right. Train public work crews and best management for erosion and habitat, I'm sure that's already happening. And then tree planting program, we have been receiving grants from the state,
Right.
through the canopy program for that. So we've been able to be very fortunate in that.
So we have this Safe Routes to School funding, and basically, that, we're no longer eligible for that program unless we do a major overhaul of a large area. We can't do small areas. You have to almost do it in conjunction with the MDOT project and road building and everything. You know, we were told just, if we're just gonna try to do these little sections of sidewalk, don't apply anymore. They just have limited money, so they don't want people to go apply and not get enough points. Their point system is toward, an enhanced system in which the sidewalk and the road is done at the same time
Okay.
to the schools.
Anybody have anything else on transportation? Pete, did you have anything else on transportation aside from
No.
the whole, we need to pay for roads? Public services, fiscal responsibility, general involvement, general government services, and most cost-effective manner possible. I think our town office is
I
pretty
think we-
conscious about cost effectiveness. Purchasing, cooperative purchasing,
We do that.
dedicated staff time to search and apply for grants.
Yeah.
That would be just Catherine. Utilize a team approach to town government operations, share labor on joint projects, our
Yeah.
department heads do that.
Yes.
Community involvement, through welcome packet. Do we have a welcome packet?
I had the welcome packages, but people would take things out, so we would give them the welcome package folder, and then they would go through all the handouts and put in what they wanted, unless
Okay.
they asked us, like we talk over the phone, and they like certain things, so we put together a specialty one. Otherwise, we were pulling them apart and updating sheets that were in them.
This, I think, would be a great activity for an economic development person to do.
Well, that's what we've been doing.
Right, no, I'm saying that if we were to do that, Main Street affiliate program, that could be a role that they
Yes.
could welcome they could
Okay.
welcome
If they had a
new,
Main Street program.
residents. And they
Alright.
could also, work with local realtors, you know, used to get, if you were like a new resident, you would get like a jar helper with the local realtor on it, you'd get like a key fob from the local car dealership, you'd get like pencils and pens and brochures from insurance agents, all those things that you need to think of when you're buying a new home.
Right.
An insert with the recycling center information and when the town transfer station is open, all
their
those
fee
kinds of
schedule.
things.
This town used to do that a lot.
It's still
People
going on,
back
we're over 900 now.
The
Oh my
30s, the
goodness.
40s,
Yep.
20s, 30s,
Oh, they
and
always used to
40s.
have
Oh my God.
And then you get an invitation to
Everything.
Tupperware.
And the reason I know that is because my mother-in-law was like, she was the historian, really, of the town.
I remember getting one when my parents bought our house. I was 6 years old, and I remember getting a bag from the local
Yeah.
town office with all those little
All
things
those
in it.
little goodies.
Yeah, all those
Yeah.
things that
I
you were
have
like, what day
cases
is
of
the
those
house
in the
open?
basement.
Yep. Effort to involve the youth in civic affairs and community projects. That would be with the school, I think, and the Boy
Girl
Scouts, the
Scouts.
Girl Scouts, that type of thing.
Right.
Maybe we should
I
issue.
think we should take town manager off of that. I think that
Well, we're
really,
not gonna change our
No,
comprehensive
these are
plan.
the way they're set up.
I think it would be great if the council issued a invitation to those youth groups to come and sit in on a meeting to see how town government operates.
Actually,
They
that's
have to
like
do it
Cub
in
Scout.
smaller groups. Don't they have a badge for it?
For Cub Scouts, it's a belt loop.
A belt?
Yep, Jeremy earned that belt loop. It's government.
Government.
Aha. I don't know that Boy Scouts, does Boy Scouts have a badge for that?
They have something, cause my son had to come in
Community
Okay.
service.
Yeah.
Some
I
kind
knew
of
for Cub
community
Scouts there
service.
was the belt loop, but Jeremy didn't do it for Boy Scouts.
Well, I know for my 11th grade civics class, it was a requirement that you sit through town meeting. And at the point we had town meeting, it was in the gymnasium. All 4,000 people in town would come and fill that gymnasium. And sometimes it went until 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
Oh,
you
the
went
old
over
days.
the
Yeah.
old days when everybody participated, you know? But, and then we switched to the FB2, where you just have a ballot to vote on and nobody ever came to the information sessions. It like killed small town involvement in politics. It was terrible. Anyway, let's see. So youth civic affairs, emergency services. I think we have a pretty strong emergency services with our police department, our fire department. We have a ladder truck now. Explore opportunities for regional ladder truck.
Mhm.
We actually have a ladder
We
truck.
have one.
Fire call time, hospital coverage,
they do.
solid
yeah.
waste management, we got that down pat.
Yeah, we do.
Boy, we have a great station coordinator there. Evaluate alternatives for enhancing the water system. We've got the support of, Ulver Associates for that.
That's good.
Sewer system, same thing. Work with education providers to promote learning involvement in civic affairs while keeping affordable. That's very strange.
Kind of like airline service, it doesn't go together.
Do it, but don't spend money.
Elected board members will regularly meet. So this is meeting, the town council and the school board meeting. We usually meet with them once a year when they bring their budget in.
Yeah.
Would it be beneficial to meet with them more often? I don't know.
I don't think so, because other than handing them over the money, we don't have a whole lot
Right.
of say in what they do.
Promote use of service learning opportunities to get students contributing to civic improvement.
I don't know, with the school board thing.
These last two I think we do really well on
Yeah,
most
some of these things too
things.
are like, not looking through a COVID lens at things too.
Correct.
Yeah.
You
I
know, so
think
that's
though-
something we have to be conscious about. These were written back in 2013,
Yeah.
so.
We could meet more regularly with the school board members to discuss opportunities for civic engagement for the students. It doesn't have to be just about their budget.
I think they just need to get through a school year.
No, I
And have
mean,
a school year right now.
If the- yeah.
after COVID
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
is.
No, definitely,
It's
there's
not-
lots of
I don't
opportunities.
think that it's a bad idea to have more engagement with our school board.
No, it's totally good.
And with NCI's, board, cause
Board
it's
of
separate.
Trustees.
Right, right. No, I think it would be great, and, I would hope that the town council would be willing to work with them on projects and service opportunities.
Me too.
Financial resources, last item, and then agriculture, which will be really quick. Commitment to capital improvement budgeting at a level equivalent to or exceeding the $190,000 per year now budgeted. Catherine, are we meeting that goal? Right offhand, I'm not sure.
Between the loan that you get, yes.
Well, I don't
If
know if
you-
we can count a loan as our capital improvement budgeting.
Well, you have, it's been, you've had,
Because you're gonna pave roads with it.
yeah, you've had any amount of monies, you cut down the capital budget, you know, under 100,000. The last one was at 140,000, but you have the 706,000 above it. So you have, in the last 2 years, done this, in several years before. I don't know what will happen, you know, the upcoming year.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Deb in that it's much less painful to budget for large expenses a little bit at a time,
Looking at the
Then-
different departments.
having to have lump sum type payments.
Even if you can't come up with all of it, say you got a 7-year plan, and you can't come up with, but you can come up with 65% of it even. It doesn't hurt us half as bad as it does if you have to come up with an item all at once, and won't borrow money.
Yeah, that
It'll
much further
only
ahead.
hurt the first time we do it when the taxes go up, you know what I mean? As
Yeah.
far as, okay, we're gonna make a commitment to putting X amount of dollars
Mhm.
in, I would say, in each of the departments. And yes, that would affect the taxes, but in the long run, it would be beneficial.
I think the biggest gap in the CIP right now is paving and roads and
Yeah.
roads.
Yes,
That's the
public works,
biggest gap.
definitely.
And maybe the fire department with fire trucks, just because they're such big ticket items, you know. Other things like the transfer station, a waste transporter was what, $35,000, a
Yeah.
compactor, $40,000, you know. That's not a lot of money when you look at the budget as a whole. It sounds like a lot of money.
It
you
is a
know,
lot of money.
But it's not a lot of money when you look at our entire budget. And that's something to keep in mind when we're talking about it. And that's something a little more easy to swallow, an additional for 1 year thing.
Right.
Than it is to, let's pave 5 miles of road this year, you know.
Right.
That is the difficult ones to do when it's like super, super expensive stuff.
Right, I agree. And I think we should just make a commitment to putting money in those budgets.
So it would be interesting to see where we were on our CIP last year without including that $706,000, because I don't think that is capital improvement budgeting. I think that's emergency loan to ourselves versus, you know, planning ahead for things. I didn't bring my budget book with me. Where did I?
I'm gonna be leaving mine here since we're starting that.
And of course, the next line after that is recognize the limitations of property taxes, seeks to diversify the tax base.
Which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It's
Seek
a
new
fine
forms of
line
commercial
every
development.
town walks.
Yeah, seek new and diverse forms of commercial development, support legislative initiatives to increase municipal revenue raising authority.
We
Utilize
do-
fundraising
yeah.
drives for community projects like the depot, the community theater, and the community
Right.
center. So, I think the depot.
Yep,
is the
then
only
we do
that's
that
all
one,
done.
okay.
Did we have a committee for the community center
No.
at all?
In the past, yes.
Because I remember seeing a Facebook page about it.
Yes, that's something separate in which one of the, church groups was working on a project. I know, that popped up and I thought, what's going on, I don't know about. And it's from a number of years ago, but it's very nicely done.
It looks very pretty.
It did.
And I was like, oh,
They've
wow,
done
we had
that.
a plan
I've
for
had
that?
that committee more than once. There's,
Yeah.
I think 3 or 4 times
You don't
they've
have that, but.
pulled a group together, but, money and land, you know, where it was gonna be and how much it was gonna cost turned out to be the killer every single time they did it.
Oh, yeah.
Most projects, that's the two hurdles that.
So for your capital budgeting last year, excluding the loan, you had $80,000 that was tax dollars, and then the approval of up to $158,500 from our special revenue accounts. So we did put in, excluding the loan, $238,000 for projects.
So then we are meeting that, or at least we did last year.
We did last year.
Okay.
We have, there were, you know, I think we were close to that a number of years, and then one year you didn't, but all the other years you have nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know we're meeting that. Diversifying forms of commercial development, supporting legislative initiatives. There has been an initiative, for municipal, is it a sales tax?
There's been many attempts on that.
Yeah.
Last time they got the furthest it had ever gotten.
Right, so I imagine that may or may not come back again. And this is, I'm not a huge proponent of this, but, you know, the gentleman, Ethan Beach, that came in to talk to us a couple of meetings ago about the marijuana issues, did he bring anything in?
He has not, however, his associate who goes around and helps this type of business throughout the state did call up and ask a lot of questions, and so somehow they got the impression from Ethan in their discussions that they needed to fill out the site plan review ordinance application, and I was like, no, not right now, because it's not an acceptable use in town. You need to give us a proposal, this is the items we need. So I went over that with her,
Okay.
so I expect something in the next month or so.
Is that
Okay.
because it's against our ordinances and we need
Yeah, we
something like
didn't,
that?
we
that
didn't
would-
opt in, and it's not listed as a permitted use. Yeah, it depends also on what he's doing, because he mentioned multiple things at the meeting.
He did.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
mentioned growing and processing.
Yeah, that's why we need to nail this down to see exactly what he's talking about.
Okay, so that leads us, do we wanna talk any more about financial resources?
No.
No.
We're gonna talk a lot about our financial resources. in a little bit.
We're
But
doing
that's
that for the next.
Coming
yeah.
soon.
coming soon to a council meeting near you. All right, agriculture and forestry. Consider farming, as a critical part of its economic base.
We do.
It is.
Promote local foods and value-added industries, support a farmer's market and other marketing efforts. Commercial agriculture into the town. Industrial development efforts through planning for incentives like tax credits, business promotion, financial assistance. Review zoning ordinances to ensure that they're farm friendly, and that's planning board.
I would like to.
I'd actually like to
question.
see some stuff on that one, because right now, our ordinance only allows 1 chicken per household.
I thought it was 6.
In town, 1 chicken was what I had read. So if it's been
No,
updated, it
no,
hasn't been
it's more
updated
than
online.
that. I
It's
think
more
it's
than
6.
that.
Okay.
It's 6 chickens, but your coop has to be inspected, and there's a $25 inspection, like
Fee.
chicken permit.
So I think that gets away from the farm-friendly side of this ordinance stuff.
I think it's only because it's in town. That's why, and it's only hens, no roosters.
Yeah.
So that's the restriction.
This was a big topic when it came
This
up.
is a huge
Oh my
topic.
God.
Yeah.
Well, when I read the original ordinance said only 1 chicken per household. And I read that and I was like, that is the dumbest thing, because that chicken is not doing anything.
Yeah, we know from experience it's a lot more than that because they were running around town a few times.
Yeah, you have to have a penned-in yard or a way to keep them,
Of course.
you
A way to
know,
keep
which
them
they
in
can't be running
somewhere.
around town, but.
Some of them
we do
escape
have a
every
chicken
once in a while.
ordinance. Yeah, we do have a chicken ordinance,
Okay.
Common sense stuff.
so.
Plus, I'd like to have a goat in town, I'm just putting that out there.
And why is that, you don't wanna buy one more or what?
I just really want a goat.
It's a-
People have dogs, I want a goat.
It's an emotional support animal for you.
There we go.
So a bunch of,
You can take it on a plane. Just saying.
I could tell you about the house that our assessor went to that had the goat in it, but I won't.
probably we won't.
What went on?
It also lists here to work with Farmland Trust, Sebastopol Land Trust, other programs offering conservation and agricultural easements and similar programs to preserve valuable farmland.
We do
I'm
these
not
things,
sure-
we do all these things.
Yeah, I'm not, unless the town were to put its own land into programs like that, I'm not sure what they would be doing to
Right.
support it, because that's usually a landowner agreement with the land trust.
Right.
We just provided information here. We haven't done it recently, but, you know, when this came out, we ran around and did a lot of the items. And so we got the brochures and the handouts so that when people came in to see the assessor, the information was also there.
Okay, great. Require identification of prime farmland soils in subdivision plans.
That's required.
So that's already in there. Maintain a current agricultural protection district.
We have that.
We have
yeah.
that.
Okay, forestry management plan for the town forest.
Yeah,
We've got
that
one of
fits in
those.
with the town farm. That's the whole
Mhm.
big massive project.
Report violations of state timber harvesting to the CEO. There's not much really that the town is,
With regards to
doing
that.
as far as that. I mean, there's some support for the town farmers market, with advertising here in the office.
I would like to ask a question. Why, it seems, we only get one or two farmers at the farmers market?
Well, there was, I wanna say 6 last year.
Yeah, last year was
Not
much better.
consistently.
They had a lot.
Not consistently, because people do have products that come and go, they might have seasonal products. And honestly, it's just not busy enough to, there's not enough business coming during that period of time. I talked to one vendor, you know, they're like, oh, we sold 3 bars of soap in a day. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going home with $12 after sitting down there.
So
all
how do
night.
we make that better then?
It needs to not be run during business hours.
The timing of the market could be changed, the location of the market could be changed so that there's better space for customers to park,
Right.
so that they're
Yeah.
not walking in the street or along the street in
Right.
order to visit the booth. My opinion is it's a terrible spot for the market. I know it's
I
close
agree.
to some of the low-income elderly housing there on the park, and it's right downtown, and isn't it lovely? Manson Park would be a much better
Agreed.
spot because you
Right.
can have your line on one side and still have parking for customers.
Right.
And now you can have it so things are spread out a little bit more.
And I agree with Amanda, having it during the week. I
A
mean,
weekday isn't a bad thing, and in the afternoon is better because you can catch people on their way home and after school.
Yeah.
So that's not so bad.
Okay.
I actually liked going to it on Monday because even though I spend all day at farmer's market on Saturday, I often have no food when I get home. And so I would go to the market on Monday because I can't leave my booth and wander around most of the time.
Right.
So it's kind of ironic, but I usually would come down, I'd do my errands in town on Monday, and then I go to the farmer's market, you know.
Yeah, they just need to have later hours.
It needs to be
Because I
later
miss it
hours.
every single time because my working hours are their working hours at the
Yeah.
farmer's market. And I hate it because I want to buy from them. I don't want to go to Walmart to get my
Yeah.
produce.
It's tricky. It's really tricky to find that time that works for the customers as well as for the farmers. And a lot of the farmers are already committed to Saturday morning farmers markets or a Sunday farmers market, or they don't want to do a market on a Sunday.
Right.
So it's tricky in that respect, that you want to be able to serve and provide food in your local area, but at the same time, you know, what can you do, what do you have the capacity to do?
How many of those farmers have a stall or something at their farms. That would be something that would be interesting to publicize, because I'd be more likely to be able to go to one of those, although lately with
Like
my
a farm
schedule.
stand instead.
Yeah, you know, like you have your shop,
Right.
but some places have farm stands I've seen outside of town.
There's
And
a few that do.
On the road.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah, and that works, that works for some people, and for other people it doesn't work. Sometimes it works to fill that gap between their market day, when they need to be harvesting vegetables every day, but they only go to a big market once a week. They can harvest continually throughout the week so that things don't get overgrown. One more item regarding farming and support for local food. I mentioned at the last council meeting that the cheese, that I wanted to write a grant to help get the Cheese Guild to come back to Pittsfield for the Cheese Festival. We had a meeting, a Cheese Guild meeting on Sunday, and the board approved writing the application for that grant. So we're working on that now, and what we need is a letter of support from the council to kind of go along with that grant application to the state. The grant writer sent me just a draft of one. It's very brief. It just says, "Dear Maine Office of Tourism, the town of Pittsfield is delighted to write this." This is a sample letter of support. "The town of Pittsfield is delighted to write this letter of support for the Maine Cheese Guild's MTMPP grant application to promote their annual Maine Cheese Festival. The Guild held this event in 2019 at the beautiful Manson Park on the shore of the Sevasticook River, and we would look forward to their return in 2021. Agriculture is the backbone of Somerset County, and we want to share our community and vision with as many visitors as possible. Our comprehensive plan clearly states that the town shall maintain agriculture as a community economic asset. We know that the support of this grant, the festival, and our community will continue to thrive." I had spoke with him today, and I mentioned that I was on my way to a meeting to discuss our comprehensive plan, so that's why he put that in there. He thought it would have a little sway with the state government if he pointed that out to them. So I'm gonna forward that to Catherine, and we will spell Manson Park, because he spelled it wrong again.
So when does this have to be signed?
This grant application is due on the 18th. So ideally, if it could be to him by maybe the 16th, so that he can assemble all the items and get it electronically. They just announced it on the 4th.
Right, I remember, so that's August.
August, yeah, it's a
So
really,
does
it's
the
2 weeks
the
from the time they
councilors have
announced
to
it.
sign that, or can we type their names on?
I think it's just a town letter, so I think that you would be able to sign it.
Okay.
We could always put everybody's name on there as the council and the town manager, if they were comfortable with that.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have to sign it, just Catherine.
Okay.
I don't
good,
believe
good.
so. I think
Yeah.
Catherine could just sign it, and I can sign it as mayor. It doesn't matter. I
Okay.
think it's just a letter from the town in support
Okay.
of the application for the grant.
Yeah, you can have that sent to me and I'll take care of it.
I'm so excited. I want it to come back.
Do you
It's so
like
bad.
cheese? Do you like cheese?
It's not just that, I just love going to all of the booths.
You like the booth?
I like that, I like the idea of trying new things, I like the community aspect
You
of
would have
that.
really liked the Bike Maine craft show that we had. That was just a lot of
Yeah.
fun. That was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, Manson Park, I know there's issues around use of the park and things like that, but it really is like the jewel of our park system, and it has such potential to serve as an economic driver for our town and to get people to come to visit Pittsfield.
Completely underutilized.
So underutilized, it's not even funny. I mean, in the wintertime, it would be great to have the snowmobile club just do a loop for people to do cross-country skiing, and they can loop around and do snowshoeing and things like that. It would
Yep.
get people outside, and it would, they'd be in Pittsfield for the day, go have a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate or something.
Won't be me outside.
All right, so I'll take care of the letter. So we never
Really
really
sit
did
by
get
the
to
fireplace.
we never really did get to the budget, but I do
Well,
have some.
actually, Indirectly, because I was gonna say something, we talked about equipment, vehicles, buildings, through all that.
Indirectly, yeah. So I did want to note that we've got some hydrant replacements that are coming up. So we did figure out the cost for a new project for the 5 hydrants on Main Street that will get coordinated to be done just before the Main Street paving. And so if they're done by a contractor, it could be $30,000 to $50,000 because of the locations and the types. And so this might be something that we can try to do ourselves in the hydrant day that we had before, and do a couple of those. And we also have, because the power has gone out so much and flickered so much over the last year or so, we do need to get a generator for the water treatment plant so that we don't have to call up different companies and contractors in town or go find one. So that's something we do need to plan for that. We looked around for a grant, we haven't come across that yet. We can't use the old one downstairs when we replace that one. We have to have something new because it's, or relatively new, because it is for the water system. And so this has been, this never used to happen. The power went out twice in decades, and then all of a sudden it just keeps going out now. And it was out for quite a few days this last time. So that's something we have to budget for in the water department.
Well, storms are definitely getting more severe than
They
they
are,
were.
yeah. And more different too.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's mostly all the same type of expenses. Some things are a lot more expensive now. You can't figure it out. People say it's COVID-19, but it's just everything.
So
coming
Catherine,
together.
we're supposed to have the draft budget stuff ready for the next finance committee meeting, correct?
Down the road, yes. Yeah.
Or, for the
In
For the
Sep-
25th meeting, is that, do I remember that we'll have a draft, because all of the town, the
That's the
department
revenue
heads-
budget. which
Yeah,
was
that's
compiled.
just
Oh,
that's
just the
the
revenue.
budget. So the department
Okay.
heads and supervisors and others, committees, get all their budget paperwork, which was
Oh,
supposed to
that's
have.
not due till then.
Yeah, it's supposed to
9/22
Right.
is when we're gonna
Yeah.
review budget.
Supposed to have goals and stuff on it, but we haven't set those, so I'll just have to give them the general paperwork on Friday. And then your first meeting after all this will be 9/22, and we will have some of the departments run right in with their budgets, and then others, we assist them with
You have to
it.
drag them kicking and screaming.
Well, generally, if I tell them I'll do their budget myself, then I get them. So those are the 2 big items that stuck out that are new that we have to deal with. We got a couple of hydrants we can do this year. We figured out how we will do that, and next month there'll be some hydrant work, but it will not be this big project on Main Street. They're still working amongst MDOT and the town engineer on exactly what the grades are. It just needs to be refined. They're looking at whether the bump outs will stay on Main Street, and will there be the esplanade, the strip of grass, and I think that both will be yes. But they need to resolve that, and then everything will be designed. Then we'll pull in the Main Street little CDGB committee with the Economic Development Committee, and then go forward.
Catherine, I remember at one point when we were talking about budgetary items, we mentioned asking to have a financial review. This will help with how much money we're putting aside for the roads and stuff. But a financial review of the projects that needed to, like Library Street, how much it would cost to do the stuff that has to be done on that road before paving can happen.
Yeah,
It's not the only road, there were other roads listed that one sticks out because it's mine, but
Yeah, I did talk with the Public Works foreman several times about that, and that has not been done.
okay. So that won't come in with this then for us to consider with,
Not at the beginning.
okay.
Yeah, it's on Public Works list.
Catherine, can you tell me what the actual percentage increase was for 2020?
I can go back and make a chart for all the years, because the last 2 years have been large increases
Yeah.
compared to the prior ones. So I thought it would be helpful if I did a spreadsheet that has your the amount of the increase, the tax rates, the tax commitment, what the school budget was, the county, and update all that. I have all those spreadsheets and update those for you.
And you'll email that to us?
I can email that to you or as part of a package for the finance committee meeting and counselors, yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, well, out of the comp plan review, I got a couple of good ideas. One, I think that can spiff up the front of the website. And then the website will definitely be moved around here to consolidate, but bring back a few of the resources that people really liked. Yeah.
I think we're just going to have to utilize all of our virtual technology as best as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be a hard, we're gonna have a lot of hard decisions to make. And some of them will make taxpayers not very happy, but we're
Oh.
not in a very good position.
Speaking of which, hard decisions. One of the things we had discussed, I want to make sure it's at least put in as a budget line, is a projector with a screen so that we can see our townspeople who are joining via
Yeah,
Zoom.
we did get the cost of that.
Okay.
The staff member has it, but I have an idea of what it is. And so,
Okay.
yes, yeah, I have.
Perfect. Or, and if it's not a projector and a screen, the large TV
Yeah, it's
is
a large
probably
TV, yeah.
a good,
Oh,
okay.
That's even better.
Well, we can use it for other things too.
Yeah.
Well, it can be used for
Well,
trainings, it can be used for,
A smart board would be good because that incorporates both. And then, you know, it has the projector on the board and it's a whiteboard.
What is that called, smart board?
A smart board, a lot of colleges use them.
I can tell you from experience, those smart boards are not fun.
No,
No.
you gotta have the right dongles. We've used it at our farmer's market meeting in Portland before. And if the right person is there with the right computer with the right cord,
Okay.
it's awesome.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, you really don't want to.
Otherwise,
Okay.
it's like, she's not there, nobody else knows how to run it.
Yeah, it's really, they are very wonky. That's the
All right,
word I'm
thank you
using.
for bringing that up, because we want to get something that somebody who's gonna have a meeting that's not us can also use too.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think that it's, when you do something like that, you can have the different, they're called fobs, is that what I'm thinking of? What are they?
Dongle,
The different plugins.
yeah.
Depending on what the, if it's an Apple, because they have a different plugin than if somebody has a laptop with an HDMI.
I just need to get the adapter set.
Yeah,
There's a
we
set
have,
that you can buy that has like 4 different adapters and you can plug anything.
yeah, that's what we
Right.
have at the university, and it's so nice, so that's
Yeah.
something that we want to make sure is on that list, so that whoever's leading, no matter what they have for a computer,
Mhm.
they can plug in.
Some of them are wireless.
So remind us of that
Some
when
of
we,
them.
remind us of that.
So we've got the Zoom set up, so anyone that comes in for a meeting, as long as we know they want to be on Zoom, we got that all in there with a list of all of the meetings and everything, so that works out well. As long as you don't get a whole bunch of people on here in Zoom, because then the vibrations start up.
Well, no, it's more of
Vibrations?
projection so we can see the people, because unless she has her laptop up, then she's able to see them too, but the only person who can see who's on Zoom is you. So what I was thinking is instead of connecting to your monitor, you're connecting to the TV screen and then us as counselors.
Right, once we get that, but
Can
in
see.
the interim, they're all set up, so anyone that wants to use the Zoom can
Right,
use it.
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. No, and I agree, you don't want too many
Yeah.
devices, at least they all have to be muted. Or it's not good.
Yes, we found that out.
Yes.
I would like to say thank you to everybody. For me, this is a very important meeting. The comprehensive plan, like I said, I've been through it a few times. And I appreciate the opportunity to go through it and have the discussions that we've had. I think we should do that every year
Well, we used to go through it each year.
before we start the budget, because it gives us an idea of what we actually have to plan for.
Or at least discuss planning for, and then
Right.
you decide if you're gonna do it or not, yeah.
Right.
It's probably worthwhile to have that meeting, obviously this year it couldn't happen, but to have that meeting early to mid-spring,
Yeah,
then we can start the conversation and see what the priorities are for the upcoming budget, to have those goals ready for the department heads.
I don't like the fact that we're behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So anything we can do to, there's decisions we're gonna make that are going to make people therein happy, but we have to make them for the greater good and
Did we have
get
anybody
the
join
town
us?
back on its financial track.
Catherine, did we have anybody join us?
No. Nobody came on. I did send it out over, the Facebook page.
I sent it by mine too.
And you're correct, once I was on the different computer, well, with the new setup of Zoom, everything went on so smoothly onto the Facebook page, it was amazing. Yeah.
When you were saying you're having difficulties, I'm like, I don't understand.
So I
Never had an issue.
had an old version and then I updated to a new version and then they updated automatically.
Yep, they update now. Yeah. It's really helpful too, because if you forget to do that update, it's a bummer.
Right, I'll look for a motion.
Will we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Everybody-
Oh, boy.
Now I have to finish up the PowerPoint presentations for my conference tomorrow.
I wasn't trying to have any meeting. I was just excited that we're actually having a
I
meeting
know.
to discuss it. So I hope you don't think I was trying to.
No, I